Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a meeting of Brant County Council of March the 10th, 2026. I'm sorry that there's not chairs for everyone, but I think probably people are here to speak to things that are early on the agenda, so maybe when you're finished and your issue has been heard, you can maybe leave or step to the side so the other people can sit down. We can't put any more chairs in here. It's a fire thing. We have as many people in here as we can. So attendance has been taken, noting that all the councillors are here. The land acknowledgement is next on our agenda, and Councillor Kyle is going to do that for us.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As we gather, we acknowledge that we meet on the lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Six Nations of the Grand River, and the traditional territory of the Attawandaronk. We remind ourselves that the County of Brant is situated on lands that are full of rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. We recognize the significance of their contributions to the past, present, and future of this land. As a county, we have a shared responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work, and a commitment to the truth and reconciliation calls to action. We commit to continue learning, reflecting on our past, and working in allyship.
Thanks, Councillor Kyle. The next thing on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda? Councillor Pierce?
One under other business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add to the agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Howes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chambers that the County of Brant Council Agenda and Addendum of March 10th, 2026 be approved.
Thank you. All those in favor of the agenda? Opposed? Next thing on the agenda is the declaration of pecuniary interest. Does anyone see any that are obvious? No. If one comes up, please let me be the first one to know. And we'll go on to delegations. Believe it or not, we have no delegations, which scares me a little bit. Because now I'm wondering why everyone's here, because we have no delegations. Adoptions of the minute from the previous meeting. Councillor Miller?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself, second by Councillor McAlpine, that the County Brant Council minutes of February 10th, 2026 be approved.
Thanks. Does anyone have any concerns about the minutes of February the 10th? Seeing none, we'll receive the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes? No. Okay. Consent items, 8.1, we don't have any to be approved. 8.2, consent items to be received. We don't have any. Now we're going to go into 9.1, which is a public hearing under the Public Planning Act to receive information from the public. So this is a public meeting, which means everyone or anyone who wants to speak to this can come up to the podium after we're done the presentation, after we've heard from the agents and the people that are bringing this forward. So I'm going to call the public meeting open now, and I'm going to call upon Ryan to come up. Whenever you're ready, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This presentation is in regards to application ZBA 2525 and OPA 625RC, zoning bylaw amendments and official plan amendments for lands known as 982 and 986 Rest Acres Road, presented by MHBC Planning on behalf of Orlando Corporation. The subject lands are located on the west side of Rest Acres Road, south of Powerline Road in the town of Paris. The subject lands are currently vacant, featuring one natural heritage feature, which is of particular interest to this application. The lands have a frontage of approximately 275 meters on Powerline Road and 233 meters on Rest Acres, with an area of approximately 10.5 hectares. The subject lands are designated in the county's official plan as prestige employment, which is the light blue shown in the figure here. Those are lands, the prestige employment designation is applied to lands located within close proximity to the 403 with the intent of this designation to support major economic activity within the county. Permitted uses include manufacturing, warehousing, and knowledge-based employment. Also, there's a portion of the lands that are designated as general employment, and the intent of that is to accommodate a range of employment uses including light and heavy industry, as well as business industrial uses based on appropriate servicing availability. The subject lands are also designated or applied with a special policy area number 3 within the official plan. This special policy area applies to permit funeral homes, vet clinics, and hotels and motels, as well as certain commercial uses which provide services to the business and employment areas, and those which include significant warehousing component. And then again, a portion of the subject lands are also designated as natural heritage, the intent of which is to identify and protect lands identified as environmentally significant, such as woodlands, watercourses, and hazard lands. The subject lands are currently zoned as agricultural A and natural heritage within the county's official zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing an official plan amendment. The OPA proposes to remove the natural heritage systems designation from the subject lands based on a proposed reconfiguration and compensation natural area, and a zoning bylaw amendment proposing to rezone a portion of the lands from agricultural A to prestige industrial special exception and light industrial special exception. The natural heritage zone NH will be modified to include an area to be reconfigured for natural heritage purposes. The applicant has submitted a comprehensive environmental impact study in support of this proposal, which is being peer reviewed right now by the county's peer review service consultants. This is just an overview of the proposed plan, noting that Block 2 is the proposed reconfigured natural heritage area, which is contiguous to where the county's current water tower is located for context. The figure here shows the lands to be rezoned as natural heritage outlined in green, and lands to be rezoned special exception prestige industrial M1 on the easterly portion, and the westerly portion to be rezoned special exception light industrial M2. So as noted, this presentation today is for information purposes to receive input and questions from council and members of the public, and a decision to be made at a later date. And I'm happy to take any questions now. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Now we'll hear from Stephanie, who is here, I think. Is she online or is she here? Oh, it's Dave, sorry. When you get to the podium, if you could just give us your name and your address just for the clerk. There is a podium at the back, so if you want to follow any of these applications, give us your name and your email, and we'll make sure that you stay up to date on anything that's happening to any of these things that are coming before us tonight. So there's paper, and you can just put which item you're interested in. There we go.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Dave Aston, MHBC Planning, 540 Binghamton Center Drive, Kitchener. Thanks for the opportunity to speak at the public meeting tonight. Just want to share some additional information. Ryan did a good job providing an overview of the application. With me this evening is a representative from Orlando, so also here to hear comments on the application. As mentioned, the lands are within the urban area and within lands identified for employment uses within the county official plan. So the intent here really is
Mayor, point of order. Dave, I'm not sure if you're sharing something, because we don't have it on the screen. I'm not sure if you have a presentation. We don't see it. Thank you.
There we go.
Good, great. So the applications really are implementing the designations that have been approved through the official plan amendment or the official plan that was approved by the county. And what the applications are doing this evening is really looking at the natural heritage designation, which I'll speak to in a moment, and then looking to implement the employment land use designation through the proposed zoning bylaw. And the proposed zoning bylaw includes really the prestigious industrial uses, and then provides additional uses that relate to the special policy area that allows for some of the commercial uses that were mentioned. So the concept right now is, as you see on the screen, industrial buildings, oriented kind of internal for loading and parking, and then 2 other probably commercial-style pad buildings along Rest Acres Road. The area in the green on the left side of the plan is the compensation or reconfigured or refined natural area that we have proposed based on input from our environmental consultant and also in consideration of comments that have been received from the ministry and the Conservation Authority. So those lands would connect in a way with the water tower lands owned by the county currently. And then you can see there's the concept of a trail connection in a north-south through the lands that would then connect to Chambers Road, which has sidewalks and will have a multi-use path. And then additional lands to the south, which there'll be also a trail that would connect down to a stormwater management facility that is planned in the Phase 1 lands that's really right at the interface with the highway and Rest Acres Road. So this plan illustrates just in a little more detail the areas. The area that's proposed for the natural heritage compensation is approximately 1.5 hectares. As we've worked through this approach, we've had a number of discussions with county staff, and as I mentioned, received input from the Conservation Authority. And the county official plan has policy with regard to natural heritage areas and refinement or removal or modification, and has policies that consider such adjustments relative to compensation. And there's a requirement for compensation of 2-to-1 replacement of the natural heritage feature. So the natural heritage feature was assessed, it was surveyed, and the area that's proposed reflects the 2-to-1 compensation. So the official plan amendment really is remove the natural heritage designation, but the plan itself and the zoning will still provide for that natural heritage area. And as you can see in the zoning, again, the intent is really to just deal with the industrial uses or the employment uses on the lands. With regard to supporting documents, planning justification report was submitted, an environmental impact study, servicing stormwater management, the site plan that I shared, and ministry review, and my reference to ministry there is Ministry of Natural Resources. Early on in the process, we received confirmation from the ministry that the natural area was not a provincially significant wetland. So early on, our consultant team reviewed the natural heritage area, and that information with regard to the elements of the natural heritage area and size of the area was shared with the ministry and Grand River Conservation Authority. The ministry, as I said, confirmed that the area was not a provincially significant wetland, and the GRCA, in kind of further correspondence, also confirmed that the area was not a provincially significant wetland and confirmed no objection to removal of the feature. There were a couple conditions on it. One, transplanting a sedge, I believe that it was, from this area to the proposed stormwater management facility on the Phase 1 lands. So what's being proposed has been reviewed in context of the significance of the feature from the ministry and the Conservation Authority. And the recommendations from all of these studies are going to be proposed through the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, or can ultimately also be implemented through any future site plan application process, which will require the county's approval. So these are our conclusions relative to the submissions that we made with regard to provincial direction and county official plan policy direction. And we're here this evening to receive the input. We know that comments from the agency circulation are starting to come in and will continue to come in, and we'll continue dialogue with county staff as we look to move forward to implement really the vision of the lands as an employment area and to continue that opportunity within the county to provide employment jobs and employment opportunities. Thank you.
Council, is there any questions? Councillor Miller, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, yeah, a couple questions to Dave. Dave, you're showing access to rest acres. Are you planning that, or do you know that's a go from the MTO?
Through the mayor to councillor, it's shown on our plan. We're expecting that as we start to receive comments from the county and MTO, that there may be some comments on all of the access points. So we'll respond and look at the plan as we start to receive some of that feedback, but I anticipate to receive that comment.
Okay, yeah, because that's never a sure thing when you're dealing with the MTO. Same with, because you also I noticed in one of the diagrams, there was a roundabout at Chambers Road and rest acres, which is not there now, obviously. So, it is? That one? Oh, that's the one, okay. Second question, how much, do I hear an echo? I think I do. How much traffic, like, do you plan on using the power line access as much as the other accesses for traffic?
Through mayor to councillor, no. The main traffic movements we anticipate will be to Chambers Road and through the roundabout to Rest Acres, and then north or south on Rest Acres, primarily likely to 403.
Okay, and then, yeah, I'm just wondering if Powerline needs some work on it or not, but our Public Works would know. And then the last question, is there any buffering from your point of view planned for that section along Powerline Road?
Through mayor, yes, we'll be looking, there's buffering in the sense of there's the power lines, so we know that we have to maintain that as far as a setback. And then there'll be a landscape strip that we're proposing that would include planting and such along the Powerline Road. There will be on Rest Acres Road, but more importantly, kind of the buffer planting between Powerline Road and the residential uses to the north of Powerline Road. And we've tried to look at the design so that any of the truck movement or the major traffic movements would be oriented to Chambers Road and have the loading and truck traffic really addressed from an internal perspective to the buildings on the plans. I'm looking at the plan, but that's the intent is the truck movement is all internal, and the movements to Powerline probably will be a higher percentage of people working within the area and not so much the trucks. We really see those coming off of Rest Acres and Chambers Road.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Dave. Good to see you, Dave. Haven't seen you here for a while. I have a question about the zoning of that big block, which is on the corner of Powerline and Rest Acres, the big piece, M1-XX. My understanding of the M1 zoning is that it does not permit warehousing. And it very much looks like from your plan that this is a series of warehouses. It was never my expectation that this piece of land, which we deem to be prestige employment, would be used simply for warehousing. My expectation was we would go upmarket in terms of the jobs that it would create. Maybe it would be hotels, maybe it would be high-end technical industry. If it's simply warehousing, I'm really uncomfortable because we've got lots of places where we can put warehousing to better effect. Any comment?
Through the mayor, but I hear the comment, and I know we're working with Orlando on looking at the different types of uses here. And the understanding is that it's not just intended to be a warehouse corner. I agree, there's lots of opportunity for those types of uses within this block alone of the county. So that's something that we're taking a look at as far as the different types of uses that would go into these buildings. I wouldn't take the large boxes as an assumption that that's just large warehouse uses. It's just footprint that we're using at this point in time to look at the design and how we're dealing with the design relative to the different uses.
Okay, well, I encourage you to look at different uses other than warehousing. Second question, I think it's probably more for staff, and it follows on the comment from Councillor Miller. Powerline Road, I know there are some concerns from the residents about the noise, the light that will be thrown from this development across to them. I think we need to address that, and the idea of some kind of physical buffer would be helpful. But I'm also picking up lots of noise about the traffic volumes on Powerline Road. Powerline Road is getting more and more used. If we ever put a roundabout at Bishopsgate and the 403 closes, then that road is going to be a real block. It's going to be used as the emergency route, if it's not already used as the emergency route. So I'm looking to staff to say what we're going to do to improve and upgrade Powerline.
Through the mayor to Councilor Bell, I'd have to speak to our operations department what their plans are. I don't know that off the top of my head. Unfortunately, they're not here this evening.
Yeah,
But we can present that information in the recommendation report.
Yeah, and I think the timing is important. I mean, we get a lot of feedback that you need the infrastructure there before you have the development. This is one of the obvious cases where we should have it. Thank you.
Councillor Chambers are next, and then Councillor Pierce.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if I understand it correctly, the westerly side of the property, which is now natural heritage, is going to be proposed to be changed to employment lands, and that natural heritage area is being reconfigured elsewhere on the site further to the west. Am I understanding that correctly?
Through Mayor to Councillor, generally yes, but the natural heritage area remains on the same block. So the western portion of this block, and can we put it back up on the screen by chance? So this may help. You can see kind of the outlined yellow areas that are the natural heritage. So those areas are the areas that will be compensated for, and it'll be within the block that's shown on this concept.
And that's what I guess my understanding is correct then. So my question is, was there any consideration of reconfiguring the natural heritage area rather than on the westerly portion, on the northerly portion along Powerline Road to create a buffer from the residential and employment uses? In other words, go west with the employment lands, and on these northern boundary have a natural heritage area as a buffer, and then you kind of kill two birds with one stone.
Through the mayor, it's a good question, and we looked at a number of different configurations. And then this one, we looked at trying to maintain the most amount of the natural heritage area that we could, which kind of is along north-south orientation. And then there's also some element, what happens is from the north, there's a stormwater management component from the residential lands to the north that drains into that pond that is there now. And then ultimately, there's kind of a runoff that would spill over. So we had to also keep that in mind to maintain that drainage that's continuing from the subdivision in a north-south direction, because what will happen is then it's working its way through the natural heritage area and then a channel then down to the stormwater management pond. So that's why we looked at kind of a north-south configuration on the west side.
And just to further that, I guess what I was looking at it is rather than a landscape buffer, do it right with the natural heritage area, and then you have a really good buffer that would help the residents along power line, but I understand the stormwater management. But it's worth considering, I think.
Thank you.
Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. So a couple of my points have already been covered, but I will reiterate them. The fact of Powerline Road. Dave, I appreciate the fact that, you know, we can assume that most of the traffic will go through Chambers Road there in the roundabout. I understand that, but by the size of this, there's going to be a lot more traffic and it's not all going to go there. Powerline Road will definitely need to be looked at for sure in a couple senses. A, for traffic, and B, on that side for, you know, the noise, lighting, that sort of thing, and I know that is in there. The other thing that was noted that I'll go back to as well is, again, with the M1 excess zoning, we need to really look at that. Again, if you look just to the south, there's all kinds of spots there for warehousing. I don't believe that this was ever, it wasn't in my thought either that that's what this corner would be. Originally, I thought this corner was gonna be all commercial. So again, I know it's been mentioned, and I think we need to really look at that. But what's concerning me here, and I want to understand, you know, has our operations looked at that, the exit you have showing out onto Rest Acres? I understand it's a right in, right out, but we've got, that's, you know, smack dab in the middle of two roundabouts, and whether the speed limit is there or not, we understand that, you know, people like to go between roundabouts, I'll call it. So I want to understand the comments from our operations staff as to sight lines and that sort of thing coming in and out of a roundabout for that exit on that.
To the chair, to Councillor, I agree. We'll hear from operations. I don't think if a response came back from county operations that said, we don't support that access, I think the site could still function using the access to Chambers Road. And we don't necessarily need to have that connection and create any traffic conflict there. So I think we'll wait from operations, but if that's a comment, I think that's something we can easily deal with.
Okay, and I appreciate that fact, and that'll bring me back to the other fact of Powerline Road entrance there. That's, you know, if that's not there, which I'm a little leery of it, that's even gonna put more traffic that way. So I'll leave that in your hands.
And just on that, through Mayor again, appreciate the comments there. And we'll take that back as well to our team. As I mentioned, I think we really anticipate the majority of certainly the truck traffic and the heavy traffic coming off Chambers. And that may have been more of more general vehicle traffic, like public traffic and for employees. So even if we look at that, perhaps as we work with the county and operations, if there's an access to help with movements, maybe we can restrict what that movement is.
Thanks.
Council, have any more questions or concerns? No? Okay, at this point, is there anyone in the audience that wants to come up and speak to this application to or against? Come on up. If you want to come up to the podium, please, and just give us your name and your address for the clerk. You have 10 minutes.
Thanks. Hi, Michelle Peeblin, 62 Flag Avenue, right across from the proposed exit there on this concept plan. I do have a question for Dave. It's regarding this application purpose. I know that we've said a couple of times that it's already zoned and approved for commercial and light industrial, but is this also making a change to permit actual industrial? Because you've mentioned several times calling it industrial lands. Is that also the proposed plan? To expand it?
Dave, do you want to come back up? Do you want to go ahead and I'll take those questions and then? All right.
Okay.
He's going to answer your questions when you're finished.
Sure, that's one question. And the second is with regards to the exit to the proposed industrial lands being directly across from the exit to Scenic Ridge. Have you thought about traffic and just the dangers of having transport trucks coming in and out of that proposed industrial land? So those are my questions, and then do I sit down and?
You can, no, stay up there. Dave, come on up and answer the questions for the lady, please. You can go through here, sure. Get your steps in.
Okay, so the two questions. When referencing industrial lands, I just want to be clear too that the lands are designated for the employment purposes, which provides for a mix of different types of employment. Sometimes employment in industrial areas and lands are used a bit synonymously. So in this case, there's different types of uses that are permitted under the industrial designation. And we're looking to propose to add some of those industrial uses here. And what happens is there's two for sure, there may be three, and Ryan can confirm, types of industrial within the county: prestigious industrial and general industrial. I don't remember the exact name. And the general industrial would have heavier type industrial uses. Your heavier manufacturing like stamping plants or large users. And the prestigious industrial usually has less intensive type industrial uses from a noise and dust and odor perspective. So what we're proposing is the prestige industrial, which is the less kind of intensive, if you will, type of industrial uses through the zoning bylaw, and the heavier type industrial uses or the general industrial are not being proposed kind of within the zone. The exit to Scenic Ridge, I think there were a couple of questions from council about that. We'll hear from county staff and operations, and I think that's something that we've taken note on and what that access looks like. If it's there, why is it there? What is it serving? And what type of traffic is going there? And I think that's something we heard and we'll respond to and work with staff on a response.
Thank you. So that's what I'm saying. If you want to add your name to the list with your email, we'll keep you informed. Oh, you have already? Okay, so when staff does the reports, we'll make sure that you hear about it. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to come and speak? Come on up. And again, just your name and your address for the clerk, please.
Hi, Edith Stone, 26 Chapel Street, Paris. I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware that farm vehicles travel on that power line road every single day. The Clement Farm is on that road, and they have farm on the one side, the residences and other barns, and land on the opposite side. So I know for a fact that Mark uses that road, and the combine goes up and down that road, and that road has two lanes, and there's deep ditches. So when a transport goes along that road and you've got a combine, it doesn't fit. And that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that wants to speak? Come on up. And again, just your name and your address for the clerk.
Hi, I'm Troy Draper from 76 Washington Street. And I know that most of the conversation's been around the traffic, but I just want to reiterate that where that current roundabout is on Chambers Road, if you drive to try and get to the highway from anywhere in Paris at that end in the mornings, you know that the traffic backs up not only to that Chambers Road roundabout, but often back to the power line roundabout, and people are actually on Rest Acres Road trying to get to the highway, and they can't because it's stopped all the way back. We're already added another industrial site, and it looks like another warehouse is going in on the west side of Rest Acres Road. So we're already gonna see increase in traffic. Now with this, it's gonna be even more, and unfortunately, it's all trucks. So that's really slow trying to get through a roundabout. So that's, and I agree that I don't think people are really, or the trucks are gonna come in on Chambers Road. I think they're gonna try and circumvent getting it through that congestion spot and go back up through Powerline Road. But again, we'll see. Also coming the other way, right now, especially if you're coming home between 3 and 5, trying to get off the 403, it's backed up now on the highway, like to the point where there is a cutoff lane, but traffic is stopped in that one live lane just to try and get off the highway. And again, that's just gonna be further and further backed up on the, into the roundabouts. So again, just wanted to make sure everyone knew how severe the traffic effect is gonna be.
Thank you for that. Alicia, do you want to speak to Dave? She has an answer for you, Dave. Where are you? There he is.
Through your worship to council, thanks very much. So operations will be following up with a detailed response. However, I can confirm that we are currently out for tender on upgrades to Powerline Road from Rest Acres all the way out to Bishopsgate. So that is currently contemplated. All of the anticipated traffic will be considered in that design process.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to come up and speak? I'm going to ask for the second time, is there anyone in the room that wants to come and speak for or against this application? And I'm going to ask for the third and final time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, I'm going to call this part of the meeting closed, and I'm going to ask council to give me a motion to get it on the floor. Councillor Kyle and Councillor Oakley. It is a recommendation. Councillor, you're happy with the way it sits? Do you want to discuss it? Councillor Oakley and then Councillor Bell.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, and noting that operations staff isn't here to directly comment on it, but just to, I think, give some more information to the member of the public who was just speaking about the traffic in and off of the highway. I think it's important to note as well that there's a lot of industrial development that's held up, anticipating the upgrades to the interchange on and off of the highway, which would anticipate and help relieve both this development, current development, and future development. So the issues you're currently seeing there presumably will be resolved by this interchange upgrade.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I meant to ask the question earlier. What does XX mean? What does the applicant want in addition to M1 as defined in our zoning bylaw? And just for the first member of the public that came up, our M1 zoning includes, or is limited to, banquet hall, catering establishment, daycare, hotel, offices, recreational establishment, restaurant, retail store, and veterinary clinic. They're the uses of the M1 zoning. So the XX means something else. It means the applicant is looking for something more. We don't have to know it today, but clearly we need to know it next time it comes back to us.
Thank you. Does anyone want to speak to the XX now, or do you want to wait and have it come back with the report? Wait. Okay. Any other questions for council? It's on the floor. It has a seconder. We're going to call the vote to receive just as information. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Takes us to 9.2, which is 69 Washington Street. Ryan, you have that. And again, I'm going to call this a public meeting, and we'll call the meeting open. And we're going to hear from Ryan first, and then we're going to hear from the agent of the owner, and then we'll open it up to the floor for questions and comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This presentation is related to applications OPA 525 and PS 325 RC, an official plan amendment and draft plan of subdivision proposed at 69 Washington Street from Stantec Consulting Limited on behalf of Stone Edge Developments Incorporated. This presentation is to be received for information purposes only at this time. The subject lands are located on the west side of Washington Street. There is currently one existing single detached dwelling, which is to be restored. There's a frontage of approximately 186 meters on Washington Street with a total area of approximately 6.99 hectares or 17.27 acres, of which 6.4 hectares or 15 acres is within the Natural Heritage Zone and designation, and approximately 0.58 hectares or 1.4 acres is proposed for development. Within the County of Brant's official plan, the subject lands are designated as community node, which is highlighted in orange. The lands sort of at the frontage of Washington Street. The community node designation designates community areas located within the urban areas of the county, providing a destination for residents, workers, and visitors. Permitted uses include low, mid, and high-rise development, as well as mixed uses, institutional, commercial, office, and community uses. I would note that the subject lands are located within the urban settlement area of Paris. The bulk of the subject lands, as we know, are designated in the county's official plan as a natural heritage system, the intent of which is to identify and protect lands identified as environmentally significant, such as woodlands, watercourses, and hazard lands. The subject lands are currently zoned as R2 singles and semis, permitted uses including singles, semis, and row houses, as well as residential multiple low density RM1, which permits more low density singles, semis, row houses, triplex group and lodging homes, and natural heritage, matching the designation, of course. The natural heritage zone does not permit development for residential purposes. The intent is consistent with the official plan designation for long-term protection and enhancement. In the context of this proposal, the applicant is proposing a draft plan of subdivision to establish 8 lots for single detached dwellings and 1 semi-detached dwelling. There's also an official plan amendment proposed seeking to provide a reduced vegetative protective zone from designated water courses, significant woodlands, and wetland features. Similar to the last application, the applicant has submitted a comprehensive environmental impact study in support of this application, currently being peer reviewed by the county's retained consultants. The proposed development consists of 7 lots for single detached dwellings, 1 lot for a semi-detached dwelling, a park block, a retained natural heritage block, a servicing block, and a road widening block, with access for each unit to be provided from Washington Street, with an existing home to be retained and preserved on lot 7 as shown. So at this point, the county has received and deemed the application complete. It's been circulated for comment internal and externally. Now we're currently at this meeting seeking information input from the public and members of council. I think we're all aware there's some key themes that we've been hearing of concerns from members of the public, which include stormwater runoff, I think a known high water table, on-street parking, and of course protection and, of the existing natural heritage feature. And those are all things that we're taking into consideration in our review right now. We've been meeting with the applicant regarding some of the comments that have come back from both internal and external agents as well as members of the public. And we will be bringing this application at a later date for a recommendation. And so again, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. I'd like to call on the agent now, please. Joe. And you have a presentation, right? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Bailey, councillors, staff, members of the public. My name is Joe Lefebvre. I'm a project manager with Stantec, and here this evening to present our application for an official plan amendment and draft plan of subdivision for the property located at 69 Washington Street. On behalf of our client, Stone Edge Developments, we hope to alleviate some concerns and where we can answer questions to the best of our abilities at this time. I'd also like to note that Spencer Reed from Stone Edge Developments is attending virtually and here to hear directly from council and the community about this application. So the entirety of the subject lands are shown on the slide in the red outline. The majority of the site is comprised of the existing woodlands and steep slope area. The proposed plan of subdivision aims to maintain this existing woodland while allowing appropriate infill of the manicured lawn portion of the site that fronts along Washington Street between Ann Street and Monk Street, and that would be with low-density housing. The proposed development will make efficient use of the existing services such as domestic water, sanitary, and stormwater, and the proposed development will also retain and protect the existing historic dwelling with restoration work that's currently underway by Dan Brown. The two areas in the red outline on the aerial image on the left side of the screen are locations intended for development. And as you can see on the street view photo, there's an example of the existing curb cut for a driveway. There are 7 of these existing driveway curb cuts along the frontage of Washington Street. And upon review of some previous engineering plans dating back to 1978, there are also water, sanitary, and storm service connections that coincide with those curb cuts. So in other words, this area of the kind of manicured lawn area has been considered for development for some time. Further to Ryan's comments, under the County of Brant official plan, the subject property is designated community node and natural heritage system. The proposed plan of subdivision is limited to the area that carries the community node designation, which is intended to provide a staying factor and appropriate intensification. The proposed development will aid in transforming this land to be more in keeping with the community node designation. The area designated as natural heritage will remain untouched, although we are requesting reduced vegetation protection zones, which in this particular kind of site-specific case can be supported as evidenced in the environmental impact study. The area intended for the subdivision and development is currently zoned R2 north of Monk Street and RM1 south of Monk Street up to Ann Street. Single-family homes and semi-detached homes are permitted within the zoning, and the draft plan of subdivision has been developed to meet the existing zoning parameters, including lot frontage, lot area, setbacks, lot coverage, landscape open space, and building heights. Should also be noted, and Ryan alluded to this, the RM1 designation does permit row housing and triplexes, and I believe it says fourplexes in the zoning bylaw, buildings as of right. However, those forms of housing and associated higher densities are not currently contemplated as part of this application before you tonight. The proposed development is a draft plan of subdivision to create 8 new residential lots, 7 single detached lots and 1 semi-detached lot, in keeping with those on the east side of Washington Street. Although development is proposed to be located outside of the existing natural heritage feature on the site, which will be retained as a separate natural heritage block or open space block as shown on the plan, while maintaining its existing land use and designation and zoning. This is just a bit of a zoomed in kind of look at the area subject to development. So the proposed development and lot creation will take place on previously disturbed portion of the site considered as manicured lawn area in the environmental impact study. There's also a park block proposed intended to be conveyed to the county as part of the subdivision. Through more recent dialogue with staff, this park block may be better suited to an area for planting new trees versus a park. So we'll continue to work with the county staff to determine the best use for that area. The existing historic single detached dwelling, which is 69 Washington, located on lot 7 on the proposed plan of subdivision, will be retained as part of this process. To support the draft plan of subdivision, we do require an official plan amendment. While the proposed residential uses are permitted within the community node designation, the proposed draft plan does not conform to some of the more prescriptive policies in the county's official plan. To facilitate the proposed infill development, a new site-specific policy area is being proposed for the subject lands to permit a reduction in the required minimum vegetation protection zone widths for woodland, wetlands, and watercourses located on the subject property. The table on the slide here shows what is currently required by the county official plan and what is proposed based on the recommendations in the environmental impact study. The environmental impact study recommends reduced minimum vegetation protection zones of 5 meters for significant woodlands, 15 meters for the surveyed wetland, and 5 meters from the identified watercourses. With respect to the significant woodlands, the minimum buffer is 5 meters recommended, and this is to ensure the root zones are adequately protected from development and to provide space for enhancement planting. Within the 5 meter buffer, the limit of existing mowed lawn actually extends within the surveyed drip line, in many areas up to 5 meters. So in some areas, there may be closer to kind of 10 meters of available space for enhancement planting along the existing woodland. With respect to the wetland, a minimum 15-meter buffer is recommended. This wetland is considered to be small and not provincially significant. The wetland is also uphill at a higher elevation than the proposed development by approximately 2 meters, and thereby there will be no change to the surface water that flows to this wetland. Planting enhancements within the wetland buffer will also provide additional stormwater management via root absorption and evapotranspiration. The proposed 15-meter buffer provides a protective function, reducing impacts to sensitive species and providing physical separation to the wetland. The rear lot lines of lots 1, 2, and 3, which are kind of in the middle of the proposed subdivision, are governed by that 15-meter buffer, but on the other lots, there's actually a more significant setback from the wetland to the proposed development. With respect to watercourses, there's a minimum 5-meter buffer has been applied to identify the intermittent watercourses. So a narrow buffer for these features is considered to appropriately protect the hydrological and ecological functions they currently provide. Furthermore, the area immediately adjacent to the banks of these watercourses is comprised of mowed lawn and residential land uses. 5-meter buffer will provide additional enhancement to these features and additional movement corridors for wildlife. The proposed development will be in keeping with the existing area adjacent to these watercourses. The bottom picture on the slide, which is kind of bottom right side, shows the northern watercourse near the proposed lot 1. Any future dwelling would be set back further from the watercourse than this existing home, and through this development there would also be a potential to improve the hydraulic function of these watercourses to better convey and capture stormwater where they intersect with the Washington Street storm sewer. In addition to the environmental impact study, there were several other technical studies required to support this development. These include the planning justification report, functional servicing report, stage 1 through 3 archaeology reports, and we're currently drafting the stage 4 report. There was also a heritage impact assessment for the existing historic dwelling at 69 Washington. There was a geotechnical investigation and slope stability analysis, as well as a hydrogeological investigation and a stormwater management brief, which have all been prepared and submitted to the county for circulation to respective agencies and stakeholders. The planning rationale for the proposed development can be summarized in 5 points on the screen. The development is consistent with the general intent and policies of the county's Complete Communities Development Framework and Community Node designation, which is found in the official plan. The development optimizes the existing infrastructure, rather including the Washington Street right-of-way, as well as municipal services such as water, sanitary, and stormwater. The development represents residential intensification through infill development in a previously developed neighborhood at a scale and density that is compatible with the existing neighborhood and which respects adjacent natural heritage features. The proposed official plan amendment supports intensification and an opportunity for incremental and small-scale infill development consistent with the county's official plan. And the development minimizes the impacts on natural heritage systems. The development will occur outside of the existing natural heritage system features on previously disturbed lands described as manicured lawn in the environmental impact study. Through these applications, we did receive lots of community feedback. This is an important part of the development process, and we thank all the residents who did take the time to provide their thoughts and feedback. We do take it seriously. Generally, the comments kind of fell into the 6 categories that are up on the slide. And I do have a couple kind of prepared remarks for them, and then I'll turn it over for questions and comments. With respect to flooding and flood risk, so the subject property is approximately 1 meter lower than the center line of the road along Washington Street. So the proposed development would raise the grade to ensure new homes are level with the road elevation to provide proper access to driveways. Through this effort, the development will also kind of better contain, collect, and route storm water to the existing catch basins into the storm sewer in Washington Street. There'd also be an opportunity to enhance the function of the water courses through the development, kind of within the 5-meter buffer zone. We'll also be adding additional planting within the 5-meter buffer from the existing woodlot along the drip line of the woodland, and that will help contribute to stormwater management through evapotranspiration and root absorption as well. We also acknowledge that through the hydrogeological study, the groundwater is relatively shallow across the site. And as part of our preliminary design, there's no consideration for basements with the proposed homes. There were some comments regarding sewer backups. So any of the new homes proposed as part of this subdivision would have backflow preventers as required by the Ontario Building Code. The additional flows from the proposed 9 single-family homes are relatively small compared to the capacity of a 200 millimeter diameter sanitary sewer, which is found along Washington Street, which we have existing kind of connections to through those curb cuts. Unfortunately, through this development alone, there's not there's kind of a limited opportunity to make improvements for existing properties. We also heard considerable concern expressed regarding the preservation of forest trees and natural features on the site. I hope the presentation this evening provided additional clarity on the development proposal and demonstrated our intent to retain the natural heritage area and limiting development to the existing mowed lawn area. In our opinion, the proposal strikes a balance between compatible infill development and the preservation of natural heritage. Further to the preservation and natural heritage, there were some concerns expressed for wildlife and species at risk. The environmental impact study included species at risk and wildlife surveys for the entire property, and I would invite all those who are interested to review particularly the mapping at the end of the environmental impact study report for further details. That's a kind of a great place to look and see all the work that has been done. All of the wildlife and vegetation species identified through those surveys were contained within the woodland area, which is to be retained as part of the development. There were also concerns raised regarding the protection of the Grand River. So the subject property and surrounding neighborhood is within a significant groundwater recharge area and the intake protection zone 2. Generally speaking, low density residential land uses are considered low risk and permitted within these designations. And lastly, there were comments regarding impacts during construction. So this will be part of kind of our future detailed design that will come after the draft plan approval process. I can say for now there will be erosion and sediment controls put in place to protect the existing water courses and their outlets, as well as tree protection fencing and construction fencing along the proposed buffers to protect the natural heritage area during construction. And we'll certainly work closely with the county to ensure these concerns are appropriately managed during construction. With that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, Before we open it up to the floor, Councillor Pierce, you have something to say? You're gonna wait? Okay. Okay. If anyone's in the audience that wants to speak to or against this application, come forward. Yep. Again, you have 10 minutes, and just your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
My name is Lisa Patra-Flalonde, and I live with my husband and my son at 75 Washington Street. So on that map, it would be the south side, our entire property line. We have about an acre on Washington. We have every day up to 15 deer and 12 turkeys. After we heard all the other development on Rest Acres Road, they have all come to live in our forest. And that's where they're protected, and that's where they stay. They're taken care of there, they're safe there. There's nowhere for them to go. Paris has been developed, and that's their home. So that's my number one concern. My second concern is the water flow. That hill is full of natural springs. We have them coming through our property. They come out on Washington Street, and if you've ever gone down Washington Street, my house is the one with the giant ice patch in front of it in the wintertime that the county comes and takes care of. It's wet. The back of my property is mushy and wet. I'm sorry, I don't know what the environmental water tables are talking about, but if you've lived in Paris your whole life, that entire area, I've seen people with canoes over the years. Was that you? Canoes. So maybe this year and last year, the water table's a little lower, but it depends on the time of year. If you've ever gone down Main Street Hill, sometimes you hear nothing. Other times you hear a raging waterfall as the water is flowing down that hill. There's a lot of water in there. I'm not only concerned about my home and my property, because digging stuff up and messing with the hills, and even though you're doing it at the bottom, you talked about taking some acreage out. Like, there's not enough acreage in there to begin with for them, for the deer and stuff. But like, what about the other houses that are 2 doors down from me or up on the hill? Like, when you start messing with that hill and the water, what's gonna happen? Is the water gonna move? Is it gonna shift? Is it gonna end up in people's homes? I have major concerns about the water. Yeah, that's another look. And then the traffic, I don't know, but I have to back out of my driveway the majority of the time, and I do a Hail Mary every day I pull out of my driveway. I've probably almost hit some of you coming out because I can't see because it's parked cars from one end to the other. And I know those homes don't have large driveways and spaces, so I understand that. But adding another 8 houses with how many ever parking spots along there is just going to add. People like to use our road as a raceway, whether there's bumps or not. The traffic is bad. With the new Ford plant, Mr. Mayor, we're a little cut-through zone to get up the hill to the Ford plant. So that is all I have to say.
Councillor Oakley?
Through the mayor, just a reminder to folks of our rules of decorum. There's no comments from the chamber. There's no clapping. There's no cheering. There's no jeering. If you wish to make a comment, you go up to the podium. Thank you.
Next, someone else must want to, sure. Okay, you're first, you're second, you're third. Yeah. And again, just your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Michelle Costello. I live at 47 Long Lane, so we're above Washington in the street that has the forest behind it. So I understand that growth is needed, but development must respect the environmental constraints. So my concern is not really the development itself, it's the reduction of the natural heritage protections. They're in place for a reason. The property contains significant woodlands, valley lands, and a wetland, and the proposal requires a reduction in those natural heritage systems that have setback requirements. So why are we reducing protections instead of designing within them? Like, why do we have to encroach on the natural heritage system? Also, it's not just the trees that protect the ecological function, why those setbacks are in existence. So what evidence demonstrates that the ecological functions will remain intact long-term, exactly as you had brought up? Have we taken into account that there is potential climate change down the road that can affect that area? Is any of that been taken into consideration? I didn't read that. I'm not a techie legal person, so I did the best I can with reading the mountains of information that I received. The slope stability report identifies stable slope allowances that must be respected. So how will the increased runoff and grading affect long-term slope stability? Again, exactly to your point. There's no formal stormwater management facility proposed, so with increased hard surfaces, how can we be certain downstream impacts are negligible? The wildlife is a major concern. The neighbors on my street got together and already had a meeting to discuss this. That's one of our biggest issues, is the wildlife that is in there, and how we are going to guarantee that they're not going to be disturbed. How is this construction not going to disturb them, and where are they going to go? And so if the amendment is approved, what precedent does it set for future natural heritage encroachments? If we just keep saying, oh, don't worry about this natural heritage, we'll just keep bypassing all of those. So they're in place. We don't want to keep setting that precedent. So, and one thing I wasn't entirely sure of was about what was pertaining to future building. I wasn't sure what I read there about, was there more planned? And if there was more planned, where was it going? So those were my questions.
I'm going to see if we can find that map, put it back up for you. The lady behind you, I think, was next. Hand up, wasn't it? Oh, okay. Just a minute. Yeah, that's the map I wanted. Thank you. No, go on up, sir. Just your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Michael Davis. I live at 52 Washington Street. Looking at the one slide that you presented, I believe that my house at number 52 is directly across from Lot 1. And you mentioned that that one particular lot might, anything being built might be a little further back from the road. Okay, my concern is that anytime we have a very strong rain, which is often a deluge, the water coming down that goes into that sewer directly across my house completely floods that small piece of land on the north side of the driveway of number 57 Washington Street. And someone made the comment about a canoe. I've seen a raft. In fact, it was my own boys. The other concern I have is about the grading of the property. Because the property sits below the street level, how is the fill going to take place? And is there going to be very strong tamping by these large industrial machines that when they did the house next door to me 2 or 3 years ago, I had pictures coming off the wall. I had lamps being knocked over because it shakes the whole neighborhood. That's a concern. Also, going back to the water, my front lawn is the lowest front lawn on Washington Street. Now, the construction of a foundation is going to disperse the water somewhere. Is that going to come up in my front yard? I'm wondering if there's a liability issue if my place is flooded because of construction. And that's really my big concern. I'm not opposed to development. In fact, I believe from what I've spoken to with people down at the construction site, it appears it's going to be quite tasteful. And we're all in favor of that, I think. I certainly am. But my concern is about the grading of the property, obviously the water issue, which is everyone's big concern, and just the effect on all the other homes along the street from me, specifically this high tamping that I talked about, because that's going to happen. and you're all gonna feel it, if you didn't feel it when they did the house next door to me a few years ago. Because the neighbors over on Amelia Street did. And that's, you know, a good 100 yards away. So that's my concerns, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming. There was somebody over here. Mr. Stone, come on up. Your name and your address, please.
Joe Stone, not to be confused with Stone Edge Construction, 26 Chapel Street. Fortunately, I'm way at the top. And to all our neighbors across the ravine on Long Lane, you're the newbies. When we first came there, there was a cornfield where Long Lane is. About the 15 deer, she's not lying. I've seen 13 in our backyard numerous times. Last night, 6 in the front yard. Who is doing the survey to know what the livestock then that's there now is gonna be like? I have 13 squirrels in my yard the other day, right? The good part about some of this is that Councillor Pierce's home is downhill. Right? When I take it that we're still restricted to 42% coverage, roof coverage on a building lot, is that still can't address that here, right? I know when the BSC, the one that increased to 48%, the residents there just raised Blue Betty, because my son was one of them, and it's kept at 42. To the gentleman who lives right across the street, if they pave all those driveways instead of leaving them porous, you're in serious trouble, right? Like, they aren't kidding about the rafts and the canoes and stuff down there. And Main Street Hill, like, one of the maps that they first sent out, that you've seen here with the blue outline, they sent with red and green, designating everybody's property line, your fence line. If yours was green, you were okay. If it was red, that means that you have done something that's encroached on the ravine that's there. I am all for keeping it as it is, but keeping it as it is, not what somebody thinks it is, right? That is a very, very sensitive ecological area. I have a pool at the top. I don't even empty my pool down the hill. I put it out to the street. Whoops. Right, like I know that they did serious work down there to improve the flow of water to the water treatment plant, but I am even concerned about Mr. Pierce's basement flooding, because that the people that live along there, and like you say, with all the traffic that's on the street, you're not going to be able to. They're going to have to put nice big double wide driveways in on those lots, and that's going to do significant damage to the water table there, which we all know what it's like that live there. So I just hope that all the studies that are being done are current with what's there today, and that everybody is informed. Not like yesterday, my daughter, who had put something on Facebook, got a very nice detailed map like that, emailed to her from somebody on works for the county. To all of us that live there, did you get that map? Anybody here? Put up your hand. They think, no, we're here tonight. We didn't get that map, and we live there. I don't think that the amount of research that's gone into this is worth the powder to, and I won't say that. Right? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming up and speaking to us. I am very aware of what happens when you start messing with hills. I mean, it doesn't take very long to remember back on Drinks Fest at the end of Lions Park. It disappeared into a bed of mud because they had altered the hill at the top with the construction, took away the trees. I'm not sure why they didn't know that when you take away the trees, your roots that bind the hill are gone, and we ended up with a mud flow, little time before Drinks Fest, which was a nightmare. And so we know what can happen, so please know that we're listening to you. Who's next? Come on up, sort yourselves out, and you're all gonna get a chance to speak, so. And just your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Yeah, Derek Gibbons, live at 53 Washington Street, which is the first house south of that creek, or in the summertime, sometimes it becomes a river. My side does not flood. It comes up pretty high, but it mostly goes on to the other side, on the south side. Now, if these developers come in and they raise that side, then it's all gonna flow over to my side. So that's my main concern, and I agree with what everybody else said. And I have pictures of the flooding here.
Of the canoes, I bet, yeah.
You wanna take copies of them, anybody?
Yeah, can you leave them with the clerk? Yeah. I'll make sure they get back to you. Yeah.
That's it. That's all I gotta say.
No, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. Next. Yep, come on up. And your name and address, please, for the clerk.
Hi there, my name's Tracy Clarkson. I live at 12 Ann Street. Again, I'm worried about the water. My backyard is a mess right now, has been for 2 years. It cracked the foundation already. So what's gonna happen when you build more, right? It's gonna be a mess down there. I'm gonna miss the wildlife, the deer, coyotes, everything down there. Okay, thanks.
No, thank you. Come on up. And your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Pam O'Farrell, 57 Washington Street. So we are the cutout of the property in the middle of these lands up on the hill. And you might think that since we're up on the hill, we're nice and dry. We absolutely are not. Our basement is subject to frequent flooding because of all the waterways and marshlands and things that run there. So I get that we may encroach on what today's standards are, but we also deal with the consequences of that. And I submitted a pretty thick submission, but I just want to mention some points that were brought up tonight. So it was said that the grounds would be raised to the level of the road. It was also mentioned that the water behind the property sits about 2 meters above the ground as is. So when we raise the lands to the level of the road, are we not going to be about 2 meters up to run into that protected marshland that we're not supposed to be near? The other thing too, it was mentioned that although they'll ensure that the new properties will drain into the roads, but it was also mentioned that there wasn't anything that they could do about the current properties and ensuring that your sewage would be fine, even though ensuring the new houses would be okay. I also think of the houses that were built beside Mike. So before those two houses went in, that property sat as low as Mike's, and I'm sure a lot of water drained in there. It looked like there was an area that was maybe a pond where the old bakery was. I don't know, people that have been here a long time would know the property that I'm talking about, but they added those two houses, brought them up to road level, which obviously has added to the water flowing down the hill on the north part of this area. It doesn't have to be raining that hard. If you walk up the hill on Washington right there, just north of Monk, it's like a river. It flows, and I get that when the basins are clear, the road does its job and the water goes into those catch basins. They're not always clear. I've gone out to clean them off to ensure that our neighbors across the street don't get flooded. The creek or stream beside Derek and Carol at north of Monk, that catch basin often gets full, and as he said, that water overflows into the property designated as Lot 1. So while I'm concerned about houses going in there and what they'll end up dealing with inevitably as the grounds settle and it's a wet property and water's got to go somewhere, I'm obviously concerned about our neighbors across the street and also down further south on Washington. So yes, that's it. Say your name.
My name's Sloan O'Farrell. I don't want there to be houses beside my house because me and my brother play there lots of times and have fun.
Thank you both for coming and telling us what you were thinking. Who else wants to come up? Yep, come on up, sir. And just your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Jeff Lalone. My wife was the first speaker up. I live on 75 Washington. We moved in. It hasn't quite been a year in April. We bought that house with the intention of, we own an acre that backs up. Beautiful piece of property. We bought it because you can sit out your backyard, enjoy the deer, the turkey. It's a country setting. We never thought in a million years that something like this was going to happen. We've known the previous owners to buying this house, and they've known the previous owners to it, and we've never had a wet basement. What's going to happen with the excavating of the soil? We have natural springs all throughout that hill, like many of the speakers have said tonight. What's going to happen if somebody's basement does flood because of this? Who's going to pay? I have insurance. We all have insurance for incidents that are out of our control, but this is our control. We can control this. So my question is, Mr. Mayor, who is going to pay if one of our basements floods because of this? I don't know, and I'd like an answer because this is unacceptable. So thank you.
Okay, please understand that we're only here tonight for information, and that's why these public meetings are important. We do hear you, and these meetings can change things. So just know this is not for approval. This is for information, for us to know about what's proposed. So you being here is important, and it does change things. So please don't think that you're not being heard, because you are being heard. Who's next? Come on up. It's a divine intervention. Your name and your
To
address,
calm the
please.
nerves a little. Tiffany Hayes, 56 Washington, directly across from this proposed site, AKA Halloween House. I'm not up here to say many things because I feel like I'm just getting a bit furious inside, and that's not the point. But it also feels silly if I didn't come up to sort of represent the little gaggle of us directly across from this proposed space. So yeah, I just am concerned about the flooding. Our lawn is wet, and we, again, are however many meters above that space as it is. The deer, I know everyone's talked about the animals, but we literally sit and have coffee, and they're on the land. They are sitting in that green space. They're feeding off that green space. Yes, there's still some woods behind there, and maybe they're not an endangered species, but like, where are they gonna go? The owls that we listen to and hear at night, the turkeys that we laugh at every Thanksgiving, like, what are you doing, dude? It's Thanksgiving, get inside, but they've got nowhere to go, so they're in the lawn. The water, I don't want it. We had rafts out there too. Those storm drains are dangerous. I'm reaching in there with my hands thinking, what am I gonna grab as water's rushing down there, just to try to clear it, to keep it off of our lawn and other people's lawns. Echo everything else that our neighbors said. Thank you for all speaking more eloquently, and
Thank you.
I wrote some letters.
Thank you very much. So if there's anyone in the audience that has something different other than water and animals, we're never going to get. Come on up, sir. And your name and your address, please.
Hey guys, my name's Rodrigo Spinal. I live at 64 Washington, right across
on that field. Concern, traffic, sidewalks, not enough sidewalks on that street, not enough speed bumps on the street. And now the developer's gonna plan to build these units in there. The landfill that you guys are gonna put in there, how much landfill, how many tons are you guys gonna put in there, right? And that's a lot of trucks going in there. I live right across. Yesterday, I got home from work. There was 3 Aecon trucks parked in the front of my street, on my house. They're in the new build there. They're flipping over that old house, right? Beautiful, they're doing an awesome job. Yeah, build your 1 unit, 2 units. Why do you gotta take that land away from the animals? From us enjoying, we sit in the front porch. We look at the animals like everybody else. Turkeys, foxes, you name it. You got eagles up there. You got everything in there. And to develop this on that land, how long is that land being empty like that for? Too long to go develop on that land. I work in construction. I know what it's all about. And please do something about it. Don't let that happen. It's our land. Come on, it's our community. It's an old town. I moved from Elmira to come to this town. You know, it makes me so sad. Sad. You know? I'm getting older. Yes, I am getting older, but I'm getting sensitive too. You know? But this, to move into an old town and take the old site from old Paris, that's where we live, old Paris town, to take that away from us, it's not right. It's not right. You guys got to think about that decision. Take it the outskirts of the city, man. Leave that site alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Yep. You know what you have to say. Your name and your address, please.
I'm sorry, I'm very emotional because I've seen little bits of Paris, piece by piece, being destroyed. My children were to come today, but they're both bawling their eyes out because we see this town is supposed to be the prettiest town in Brant County or in the area or in Ontario, and we're letting it slide away piece by piece. If anything, please do not allow the variances for the Grand River protection. Please do not allow those buffer zones to be infringed on. You know, right now with the state of the world, you take a walk through that neighborhood and you see those deer and you see the fog and you see the beauty of what we have. To let that slip away, it's precious. And what do I say to my children when they say, where do the deer go? Where do the animals go? Why do we keep cutting the trees down? Why do we want our future? Why can we not set a precedence in Paris or in Brant County to be better than the rest of what is going on in Southern Ontario? We're destroying it piece by piece, and it's not okay. It's not okay what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir with the white hat there. Not white, beige. Your name and your address, please.
My name is Brant Daynard, just like the county name. So I can't be responsible for some of the things going on in the county, but I will take responsibility when we build a park or anything of that nature. So I live at 101 Ray Street. I walk my dog past this area every single day. I'm sure half the people that are on Washington Street see me walking by with poor Barley. Barley is now going to be desolate. He's not gonna know what to do when we walk down that street anymore. That said, I have lived through construction in different areas. I had a house that was next to me with an empty lot the whole time I grew up, and they put a monstrosity in. So one of the questions I have for the developers, why can you not go to 6 houses? Why do you have to go to 8? Is it a money thing? What is it that you could do to propose a smaller house? How big are the houses going to be there? What is the construction impact going to be? When the house next door went in to me in Cambridge, it was non-stop construction. So are there going to be bylaws set in place, the number of hours that they're going to work? I'm more concerned, I understand the lands, I don't like it, but I'm willing to live with it. I'm willing to live with it. And again, it comes back to what are you going to do to the upgrades on the street to maintain the service levels? Because we've all talked about water tonight, and I won't go back through that, but what are you going to do to appease the water level that's going to start coming? As you walk down Hillside, we just did a whole renovation of that entire area, and as you're walking through there, you can still hear the water rushing down. When I was a kid, they did the same thing in my neighborhood in Cambridge. It eventually dropped. But here, that's not going to happen. So you're going to have water issues. The fact that you're going to put in a 4-foot basement tells me that you've already started to think about the fact that you can't dig down properly to put in a proper foundation. So when I think about those types of things, I look at what you're going to do, how big the houses are going to be. Are they going to be 3,000, 4,000 square foot houses across from small single houses that are 1,000 to 2,000 square feet? How are you going to put those in and make them accommodate within the level of the housing that's around there? That is something that I find in new developments. I drove through a new development on the weekend, and they'd taken all these single 1960s, 1970s vintage homes that were on big lots, and they just raised the roof on them to 2 and 3 stories in their single development houses. So I look at the overall, I look at the impact on the environment that is coming, and I also look at the impact on the street and the construction and the traffic that is about to start. And where are those people going to park? There's no parking on the other side of Washington Street from where these houses are going to be. What are you going to do in the wintertime with snow? So I look at this whole area and I go, why do you have to develop every time there's a piece of green space somebody wants to put in a development and create more of a amendment to everything that's been put in place in the past? So that's basically those are my feelings. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll make sure Barley knows.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up? Come on up, sir. Oh. We know your name and your address, sir.
Okay. So I'm not talking about animals or water, but the first speaker did come up and talk about parking, and we also just it was brought up again. And parking is a big concern. I live at 76 Washington Street. So where we are, there's a lot of multi-dwelling units, and most houses have at least 3 vehicles. Parking on our street is always a problem, and it is impossible to get out of your driveways. I always have to do the same thing. I have to back in my driveway, or else I'm not going to be able to see when I get back out. It is high traffic zone area, and the parking is just really, really bad. So even on our block, you can see people are already starting to park down north or up north. So that's where they're putting in the houses. Once you take away those spaces for the double driveways and then you add that many more cars, it is going to continue to become a problem. Also, I did just want to ask as well, I can't really tell on the maps. We have a spot that says open space block, park block, and then there was something else that was called the service block. And I was just wondering if you could please just identify what those areas are and what they're used for.
Yeah, is there another map that you'd rather see than this one? I can show you the other maps.
Oh, I'm fine with any map. I just wasn't sure what the areas were that actually were those 3 spots.
I think there was another map that showed it better.
Okay.
Spencer, can you find that?
Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's better that you see it. Just a minute here. No, it's the one that showed the, what's the next one? No, put the other one back, yeah. Try that one. This one might show a little bit more. I mean, it's a little bit more encouraging just because you can see that the houses are right at the street and there's a big open space, but is that the one you wanted to see?
Yeah, where the park blocks going, they said it's gonna be there. We see housing lots, but no park space or anything else proposed.
I'll have to. Do you want to speak to that? Where's the park space that you were talking about?
For sure. I'm not sure if, oh, okay. I'll just go back to the draft plan. So the block 10, which is the natural heritage lands, that's going to stay natural heritage. On this plan, it's block 10, the reference says open space, but should likely become a natural heritage. So that will stay as is. And runs to the back of the lot lines and includes this water course here. The park block is block 9, which is this small area kind of between the existing residential unit and lot 2. And then block 11, which is the servicing block that was referenced. That is this piece here, which contains this water course kind of north of lot 1, and that's subject to an easement in favor of the county.
Thanks. Can I just ask a clarification from here? Before the block 9, that's the parkland, so that's going to be left as green space?
Yes.
We need to go to the podium so that people at home can hear what's being said, so, okay, I'm going to chair. Only fair to people at home up here to what's going on. You don't have to give it.
Thanks. So it was identified that block 9, which is beside the current residence, is going to be, was assigned as a parkland, and I was just asking for clarification if that meant that it's going to be left as a green space, or if there's going to be any development on that, or if it is, and it was confirmed that it's going to be left as a green space. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come up? I'm going to ask for the second time, is there anyone in the audience that wants to come up and speak? Come on up.
I got one more question, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, the only reason we make you come all the way up to the podium is because we have to let the people at home know what's going on.
Yes, I just wanted to ask who the environmental engineers are, just for my records. If you could answer that.
Okay, come on up. Thank you. Yeah.
So the environmental, so they're environmental consultants. I'm not sure if they have engineers on staff. So it's NRSI, which is Natural Resource Solutions, Inc. So they're the firm who undertook the environmental impact study. And then Stantec Consulting, which is the firm I work with, we've undertaken the remaining studies that were listed. So I can put those back up on the screen.
You can't, you have to come up to the podium, or, I'm sorry. And was there somebody else up here that wanted to come? Sure, come on up so that you're on board.
I'm just wondering where the environmental assessments and the information that your team has studied, where this can be found for public review. Is there any access for the public to see any of this?
Yeah. Again, please put your name and your email on that bit. Okay. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know if he was answering all the multitude of questions that we had asked tonight, just as we did the previous.
Staff is going to get together and answer all the questions that he doesn't know tonight right away. And as I said, if your name is on that list, you'll get a copy of the findings. Is there anyone else in the room that has anything to say to or against this application? And I'll ask for the second time, is there anyone in the room that has anything to say about this application? And I'll ask for the third and final time, is there anyone in the room that has anything to say to or against this application? Seeing none, I'll close this part of the public meeting. And I'll ask council to give me Councillor Pierce. Second, I need a seconder to get on the floor, please. Councillor Bell. Councillor Pierce, you want to speak to it?
I do, Mr. Mayor. So I guess I'll start by saying that I think people can now see the benefit of this type of meeting, that people can come and say their piece. I would like to thank everybody that came here tonight to say their piece on this, and those that wrote in letters. That's what the public meetings are all about. I think, I don't want to rehash everything that's been said, but it's definitely hit a lot of points that I was going to bring up. The main thing is, and it's been said a whole bunch of times, is the water. And to Joe, I appreciate your thought on my house, but I'm a little further down. I'm more worried about these folks up here. It's non-stop water coming out of there. That's one thing. As it is now, it can infiltrate into that green space, fine and dandy, it's beautiful. And if we're, again, they said they were gonna bring it up to the height of the road, and it was mentioned earlier how many tons. We're talking hundreds of truckloads of dirt to bring that up. That in itself is going to change the water course as well. Again, I know we're only here tonight for information. There's been a lot of information. I find it puzzling, and again, it was alluded to, and it's in my notes previous, the fact of, there's no basements in these things. So they already know that there's a water table issue, right? So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. There was a lot of good comments, and I think everybody is kind of on the same page. So those comments will be taken forth, and hopefully the developer is hearing with ears wide open.
Councillor Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I echo a lot of Councillor Pierce's comments. And one question that I do have, probably for staff or maybe for the applicant, is how is historical information captured when we're assessing an application like this? Outside of this meeting, I have had conversations with several residents who have let me know that over the years there has been other attempts to develop or want to build something on this particular property, and there was engineering that suggested that wasn't possible. So they're wondering what has changed in the engineering that would allow it to go forward now when it didn't previously, given the water and some of the other issues that we've heard about tonight.
Councillor Howes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the consultant. There were a couple of specific questions and comments from the residents tonight. Mike Davis referenced tasteful design, and Brant asked a question about the size and number of the buildings, and does it have to be the currently proposed number, and how big will the buildings be? And because I sit on the Heritage Advisory Committee, and because we've been keenly watching the work that Dan Brown is doing on the original historic home, we're aware, I'm aware a little bit of some ideas related to the design of the proposed houses if they're approved. Is that something that you're prepared to discuss tonight, or is that something that we might hear more about when this comes back around?
Thank you, Mayor Bailey, through you to Councillor Howes. So not quite prepared to have that conversation tonight. Our client, Stone Edge Developments, is in conversations with Dan about what that could look like, but we're kind of at the conceptual stage right now, so nothing really further to add there. But thank you for the question.
Thank you, Councillor Howes. You just saved me from putting my foot in my mouth. I was going to tell everyone what was going to. So thank you for stopping me from doing that. Councillor Oakley, you're next.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the consultant, just a process question here from your perspective. So the reason we're seeing this here today as official plan amendment is specifically around the vegetation protection requirements in our official plan. Otherwise, if you are willing to comply with those as they sit today, obviously taking into account that some of these lots may be not viable individually, but otherwise you would still be able to develop this land without zoning bylaw amendment or an official plan amendment without needing to make those, if you did not have to make those vegetation protection area changes, they would just go straight to a site plan, or I could ask that of staff, either or.
Jeremy?
Through the mayor to Councillor Oakley. So technically, yes, they could build a structure within the residentially zoned portions, but to create multiple lots, you would either be going through a consent, which would be up to about 3, after which you would go into the plan of subdivision as proposed. So if they didn't touch the zoning or the official plan, they'd have to still have a plan of subdivision as proposed.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Kyle asked one of my questions. Why is it not being developed to date? I've lived in Paris now for 16, 17 years, been past this site many times, always attractive as a piece of green space. There must be a reason why it's not been developed since the rest of the land around it has. So I'll leave that as a rhetorical question that the developers do know the answer to. I'm more interested in the variance, the buffer from the natural heritage. I remember a proposal we had some time ago, I think it was out on Colborne Street, where the developer wanted to bring down that buffer, I think it was 10 meters down to whatever it was. I would like to understand much better why in this case when there are so many so many issues countering the need to reduce here. I think I'd be actually going in the other direction to set a higher level. So I'm going to be looking for staff to come forward with very strong reasoning for why there might be a reduction from our own policies on this one. And the final question is how many other variances to our zoning bylaw will be requested in this?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bell, there's no proposed variances to the zoning bylaw. It's just an official plan amendment and a plan of subdivision, so no zoning variations at this point of time that we have, so.
So the primary issue, as Councillor Oakley said, is bringing down this buffer from 10 metres to 5 metres. That's what the OPA is asking for.
Through the mayor to Councillor Bell, their OPA is proposing to outline the natural heritage feature with a lower buffer than the 30. There is policies in our official plan that allow for that consideration, subject to doing the EIS as submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you maybe to the Stantec representative. Just to be clear, because I heard it said during the public part about cutting into the slope, but none of these proposed houses would be anywhere near the slope. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Bailey to Councillor, that's correct. There was, I'm not sure if we can get the slide back up on the screen, but the toe of the slope is outside of the limit of development, so we would not be impacting that existing toe of slope that was identified through the slope stability analysis.
Okay, thank you, because we've had slope problems here in the county. I wanted to ask, in your technical studies, you show, you do the, or technical, whatever, you do a hydrogeo study, for example, but you got stormwater management brief. A brief doesn't sound like it's as in-depth as a study. So what is a stormwater management brief versus, say, a study?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Bailey to the councillor. It's correct, the brief is a higher level study, so it's kind of taking a higher level look at the stormwater management for the subject property. So looking at what the kind of existing conditions are, proposed conditions, and making some recommendations.
Okay, and in your presentation, through Mr. Mayor, you stated that you could make the drainage better for stormwater, and you talk about raising it up a meter, maybe having better pathways. I'm just wondering if we look at, say, the weather tomorrow, if we go out there tomorrow afternoon, and you've raised it up a meter, I don't expect you'll get that done by tomorrow. It would be better for those guys. But do we know if it would be better for the people on that are there now?
Yeah. Again, through you, Mayor, to the councillor. So there's been no kind of detailed stormwater or watershed study for that area that's been undertaken by Stantec. So kind of quantifying that exact impact, we don't have that information yet. In terms of what we can do to kind of improve the drainage and water courses, that would be through kind of better defined water courses. The ones that are identified are fairly shallow, kind of widespread. They don't necessarily convey water in a great kind of hydrologic capacity. So it would be kind of improvements and enhancements within those buffer zones around the existing water courses.
Okay, I'll be honest, I do have concerns, and Mr. Mayor, I don't know if Councillor Kyle asked the question or asked for information about, I thought it was a good question about the history, right, of previous applications. Would we be able to get information on that?
I don't think Councillor Kyle got her answer. She was looking for where we would.
I thought it was a good question.
It was a good question.
I don't want to reinvent the wheel on this either.
Do you want to answer? Do you remember the Councillor Kyle?
I do.
Okay.
Through the mayor to Councillor Kyle and Councillor Miller, the question was obviously how history is incorporated in dealing with an application. So looking back at past applications and what was studied in the analysis and what that impacts the current application. we don't necessarily dive back into old reports because we're looking at the current reports, and those current reports are reviewed for technically being complete and done properly and as necessary peer reviewed. So we look at the current reports based on the current applications and the current situation. Doesn't mean that we won't sometimes look back at previous reports to see if there's additional information to assist us. But generally, we're looking at the current reports that should be accurate and up to date, and they should be reviewed for their accuracy, which is what the process we're doing right now is all the reports are circulated to the various agencies, including the Conservation Authority, our own internal departments for review for accuracy and completeness and whether that's appropriate or not.
I asked that because I remember we had Dave Thompson from St. George, and we had an application, and he was the one that brought it to our attention, you know, that there's an underwater stream there, and nobody knew that when we were talking about it. So I find that historical information can sometimes be quite helpful.
I would think after tonight, though, your brief should turn into a study. There's been enough concern about water that I don't know that a brief is enough. I mean, a full study, there's big water issues. So, anybody else, Council, Councilor Kyle?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. One more quick question, also kind of with respect to the brief versus the study. So obviously to be deemed complete, they just needed a stormwater brief. So at what point is there a stormwater study required?
Through the mayor to Councilor Kyle. So this is part of a plan of subdivision, so there's draft plan approval conditions if it was to be approved. And part of the draft plan approval conditions would outline what's required to get the plan of subdivision registered and constructed. So then there'd be detailed analysis that we would see the overall grading drainage plans approved, the actual outline of where the sewer and water connections would be, the grading and drainage laid out, as well as the stormwater management finalized. So that's typical with a plan of subdivision, that the technical briefs are given to us a little bit of enough information to make a decision, but they all have to finalize those technical briefs to get through the plan of subdivision draft and move it from a draft plan into an actual development.
Council, any other questions or concerns? I mean, even though you don't need a study, I would suggest that after tonight, it would be a really good idea because it needs to happen, I think, and just because you don't need it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. The other thing, I tried to buy that house back in the 80s when it was for sale, listed, and I couldn't get a severance for it. They wouldn't give me I wanted the house, I would have given them asking price for it. It's a beautiful house. That's before it fell apart on the left-hand side. And they wouldn't give me a severance. So something's changed because I wanted to restore it back in the 80s. So something's changed. Any other questions from council? We have it on the floor. This is just for information, people, and thank you for coming tonight because we have heard you. Please believe that we have heard you, and a lot can happen after tonight's meeting. It's been on the floor. It's got a secondary. You ready to vote? All those in favor just to receive his information? Yep. Okay. We'll take a recess. We're back. Everybody's here. Councillor Bell's here. We're at 9.3, which is 581 Paris Road. And again, it's a public meeting, so I'll acknowledge that it's a public meeting, and I'll call the meeting open. And we'll start with our staff. We'll call Lauren up, and then we'll talk to Rashika. She's here afterwards. So whenever you're ready, Lauren.
Thank you. I'll be presenting zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1425 LG, submitted by J.H. Cahoon Engineering Limited, agent, and the Anglish Group, applicant on behalf of BCT Solutions, owners of lands located at 581 Paris Road. This application is to be received for information at this time. The subject lands are located on the south side of Paris Road, southeast of Dundas Street East, and northwest of Oak Park Road within the settlement area boundary of Paris. The subject lands have a frontage of 167.63 meters along Paris Road and an approximate area of 4.98 hectares. The subject lands contain a single detached dwelling and shed, and the lands are currently serviced by well and septic. The surrounding land uses consist of agricultural uses to the north and southwest, residential to the east and west, and industrial to the southeast. The subject lands are designated as general employment and natural heritage system within the official plan and located within the settlement area of Paris. And the subject lands are zoned as agriculture within the zoning bylaw 6116. The zoning bylaw amendment application, ZBA 1425 LG, proposes to rezone the subject lands from agriculture to special exception light industrial in order to bring the subject lands into conformity with the general employment official plan designation and to permit future industrial development. The table provided shows a breakdown of the zone provisions within the light industrial zone. In addition to the uses permitted within the M2 zone, the applicants are proposing to permit the following additional uses: an impounding yard, home improvement center, nursery and garden center, medical office, school commercial, and transport truck terminal. This table provides the zone provisions for the light industrial zone. The proposed Building A and Building B are meeting the current zone provisions. Key considerations include natural heritage. The subject lands contain a woodlands, and environmental impact study was submitted as part of a complete application and is currently under review with the county's peer reviewer. And land use compatibility. So some of the proposed uses may be classified as a Class 1 or Class 2 industrial use based on the province's D6 guidelines. Land use compatibility needs to be assessed as part of the application due to the proximity to the existing residential uses. Notice of this application was posted on the property on February 13th and mailed to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands on February 18th. One public comment of concern was received as part of the public circulation. The comments have been included for council's review, and the concerns are regarding increased noise, dust and light pollution, traffic generated from industrial uses, impact on the existing natural heritage features, and impact on residential water quality. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Rashika, you're here. You're going to come and speak. You have a presentation? Oh, there was too many questions on your way up. Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Ruchika Angrish from the Angrish Group, 32 Charing Cross Street, Brantford. I'm here to present the zoning bylaw amendment application for 581 Paris Road. With me today, Mr. Bob Phillips from J.H. Cahoon Engineering is online. He is very sick. So for any technical questions, Bob will be available to answer. As part of this application submission, the first piece that was completed was the natural heritage study to assess the existing woodlot on the property. There's a significant number of trees, and it's a massive woodlot which is existing on the property. So that was assessed to determine the development area, and that's how the concept, I would say that it is a very high-level concept that was put together for the proposed application. The concept will be revised based on the comments that we will receive from the county staff on all the technical studies that have been submitted on this application. Further, it may be further refined based on the end user, which we will start working on after the zoning bylaw amendment application. It will be the site plan control that will provide the details of the user, the parking, the setbacks, buffers, lighting, and all those materials will be addressed during the future site plan control application process. As part of the application submission, a number of technical studies were completed, archaeological assessments, stage 1 and 2, in consultation with both Six Nations as well as Mississaugas of Credit First Nation were completed, and no further assessment is required. A transportation impact study was completed with respect to again, a high-level uses that are being proposed through the zoning bylaw amendment. The further details, once a user is determined, a further traffic impact assessment will be completed during the site plan control application, or an update may be needed to the current study. In addition to the environmental impact assessment, hydrogeological assessment was also completed, along with a geotechnical study was included, and a land use compatibility analysis, which determined what type of uses could be present on this property, and respecting the surrounding rural residential area that is along Paris Road. That kind of concludes my comments on this. I'm happy to answer any questions council members have.
Okay, before we go to council, we're going to go to the room. It's a public hearing. Is there anyone in the room that wants to come up and speak to or against the application? Come on up, please. You have 10 minutes, sir, and if you could just give us your name and your address, please, when you get to the podium.
Robert Cook, 565 Paris Road.
Thank you.
I have a feeling that this meeting is sort of a formality, and hopefully it is not just for crossing the Ts. I know there can be a big draw for a board to jump on something like this because of the increased taxes. But what about your neighbors, us the taxpayers that have been paying the taxes all along? Do we not deserve some consideration rather than a token nod because of some outsider? I am not being, this company, from what I've understand, is not even a Canadian company, and it wants to come in and disrupt our neighborhood. If this goes through, it will strand or isolate 6 homes by surrounding it with industrial zone properties, thus squeezing them out and developing their properties. Where this is located, in my particular house, I have to get right to the top of the house, top of the street, the hill, before I can see what's coming up from down below. And increased trucking in that doesn't wash. We bought our house in that neighborhood because of the zoning. I was told when I bought the house 26 years ago that this land behind would not be developed because it was a watershed or a spillway for the water tower. We used to have deer, coyotes, turkeys in our backyard. This for sure will end that. It seems to me that the environment talk is just all right until someone comes along with money, then it takes a back seat. Paris is not short of industrial land. If you look around, there's enough industrial land already on Oak Park Road, Powerline Road, and even further down Paris Road towards Brantford, rather than some company coming along looking for a cheap area that is cheaper to buy. I can't help but wonder if they had to pay for this property at an industrial price, whether it still would be feasible. Paris Road is already very busy, and as it is, there's times when traffic is lined up from Tim Hortons all the way past our house, and we live on the Oak Park Road side of the project. May I suggest they look out past Canesville instead, where there is all kinds of inferior land with a barely used 4-lane road, easy access to the 403 rather than this ground. In fact, they may have even already, the fact that they may have already purchased this land should not have any bearing on the board deciding otherwise. It could set a precedent. It seems to me that this land would better be served being zoned residential. Instead of adding more houses out Watts Pond Road, at least they wouldn't have to come down through the middle of town to get anywheres. The board has already let our neighborhood down with a chunk of ground by the water tower when a developer played them for suckers by getting them to rezone the property, promising that they were going to move their business to that area, only to turn around once it was rezoned, put it back up for sale for $1 In closing, if this board ends up turning us a deaf ear, it shows that our community is not as valuable to them or important as the almighty dollar. If this is the case, and you go wrong with this, maybe the houses in that area should have their taxes divided in half. Oh, one other thing. I'm looking at your drawing where it says where this property is. Are you aware that the house at 571 is going to lose the corner of the roof, and that they won't be able to drive into their backyard because it cuts right across the end of their driveway and leaves them with very little backyard to speak of, very little backyard. I don't even know if you could, I don't think you could even put a pond in there, let alone a pool. Done.
Okay, thank you. Because it's a public meeting, I'd like someone else to come up and speak. Vicki, come on up. And again, your name and your address for the clerk, please.
Victoria Neal, 591 Paris Road. I said I wasn't going to speak tonight. I was just going to listen, but I can never keep my opinions. Sorry, Lucas. He posted on Facebook and I had comments. I've lived on Paris Road for almost 14 years now. We owned the Hosta House for many years, and we ended up closing it 2 years ago because the amount of traffic that was up and down this road. We back onto a field that has families of deer, just like the people on Washington Street. We have coy wolves, and they're big. And we have coyotes, and we have foxes. And I've watched possum families. I've watched moms literally carrying their babies, and raccoons, and rabbits, and squirrels, and chipmunks. It's all nature, okay? I understand the official plan. We had meetings here previously. We've discussed it. However, Paris Road, it's absolutely horrendous what is happening here. The speed, not this past Christmas, the Christmas before, we had 4 kids. I believe 3 of them lost their lives because of the speed on that road hitting the corner over by the antique place. There's little businesses there. We love our homes. We love our neighbors. It's a nice community. We don't want to lose our homes, but we're just like the deer. We're just like the coyotes. We're just like the foxes. We're going to lose our homes because the county has deemed this employment lands. The people that bought 581, is it 581? 581. I mean, the conversation with neighbors is they're already planning to tear the house down this year. They're already planning on tearing the house down this year. We watch gravel trucks pull up onto the side of the road. The driver gets out with his lunchbox, goes down the driveway, and another one comes running in and jumps on the truck and takes off. This is a regular occurrence. We have school buses. The trucks and the traffic builds up because school buses are stopping to pick up kids on Paris Road, right in our little community. What's going to happen with these transport trucks? We've already got the terminal being built at the corner of Oak Park and Paris Road. The people across the road were trying to sell their house. They haven't been able to sell their house. They've had to reduce the price. They're losing equity from what they paid for it, even though the market has dropped. We understand that. But that's not why. It's because of what was built in front of them. I just want to take a projector and have Friday night at the movies on the side of that building, let me tell you. So now we're going to widen the road, and we're going to have transport trucks going down there when we've got combines, because it's all field across from us and further down, and these guys drive. And then what's going to happen with these transport trucks? Because I'll tell you, you see Kingsway coming down, and they're not slow, they're not 60, they're 80, they're 90, and it's the same with half the people that drive down that road. I have to literally wait to get out of my driveway. It's the same with my neighbors. They're on the hill going down. And now we're going to do a zone change? What about in order? How about in sequence? If you're going to do it in order. There's industrial commercial on Scott Street, Consolidated Drive, there's Tiger Cat. Then there is over off of Silver Street. And now there's Oak Park that is now over on this side of Oak Park with Bobcat and Purelator and all these places that were there on Powerline Road. Why this section? When there's residential homes, why this section? Because I'll tell you, developers are coming and they'll knock on the door. They don't want to give us what our house is worth. They just want the land. They don't care about our families. They don't care about us living in these homes. They don't care about the fact that we have a pool, our dogs can run around, our grandkids come and play, our kids next door, are finishing high school. Nobody cares. They just want to build. Why? Because BCT owns the trucking company on the other side of the railway tracks, which abuts this property. They very strategically bought this property because it's right across the railway track from their trucking place. So M2 zoning with special assessment, what exactly is that going to be? And once you approve it, then they can apply for different changes, and we don't have to go through all this again, is my understanding. What about us? What about us? What about Paris? What is happening to this community? Is it really the almighty dollar? Is that all that matters? Is taxpayers' money? Because we're taxpayers. I had to close my business that was very lucrative for 27 years. So for years before we even took it over. What's the county going to do to support us? I'd like to see it. I really would. And I was told that this meeting is just information. Nothing has been decided. I'm having a very hard time believing that. So I'm asking Mr. Mayor, I'm asking our councillors to really look at this seriously. We have homes on either side of this property. It's going to take thousands of truckloads of fill to fill it. It's so far down off the road. The amount of dust that came off this commercial building, this trucking building at Oak Park, honest to God, the amount of sand, because we have sandy soil there, the amount of sand that came into our homes that we're breathing in, you have no idea. If none of you live there, none of you know, but you can ask any neighbor that lives on that road what we've had to inhale and breathe in our lungs. So it is a health hazard. And now we're going to do this. I'm sorry. I believe in future. I've been a realtor for 41 years. I believe in growth, but not at the expense that it's going to cost all of us that live on that road and the value of our properties, because developers can just try to pick it up like that. And that's not fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to or against this application? Yep, come on out.
Hello,
All right, your name and address, please, for the clerk.
Debbie Prince, 585 and 587 Paris Road.
Thank you.
I don't think I have a lot to add. I think my neighbor up at 565 made some good comments, and my neighbor Vicky too. I'm the longest resident now there. Looking after the properties and being the steward of the land at 585 and 587, along with my sisters and my brother. I do believe that this is a formality, the obligatory meeting that has to happen so that it can be documented that it has happened. But I appreciate the process. I think it's important to have. I could get up here and talk about animals and wildlife and water and whatever. I know every square inch of those properties, 581, 585, and 587, before they had numbers, they were rural routes. I live in my grandmother's house, the house that my mother was born in. They bought it from George Mackey, who built the house, and in my bathroom, contained within the walls, is a wooden beam where George Mackey wrote on it that the house was being constructed the last of August 1939 when Poland was bombed by the Nazis. So obviously I have a lot of emotional attachment to the place. It's been home for all of us for 90 years. Is it sad to see it happen? Yes. Is it gonna happen? Yes. It's not something I think that anybody can stop. All we can do is hope that the developers who will be propping up these industries around us will be respectful and work with us, not against us. I'm not naive. None of us are naive. This is happening. We've known it for a long time. Over the decades, we've seen many attempts at trying to develop the property. At one point when I was in high school, and that's going back quite a ways, I remember them putting stakes in the cornfield behind us for residential properties, which did not end up happening. I think my dad finally got sick of looking at the little tips of orange sticking out of the weeds and ripped them out of the ground probably about 6 years ago. So I guess one question I do have is I see that a notice came today for proposed work along, Paris Road, Dundas Street. I know that's not particular to this meeting, but everywhere I read and the information we have been getting from the county has been talking about the sewers coming out to us. But what about nowhere? Even today I see Paris Road, complete road restoration, curbing, some sidewalk. Well, if there's going to be transport traffic coming in to 581, obviously there's going to have to be an astronomical amount of clean fill coming in alongside of the roadway there where the gully dips down. What about widening? Because you need a minimum, and this is a good estimate. You need a minimum of 23 feet for a radius for a trailer to make a turn in there. And like my neighbor up the road there mentioned, I don't know how this is gonna work, because right now I have to schedule in my day 10 minutes of driveway time to leave my house in the morning, because I can't get out of my driveway because cars are coming up fast towards Brantford and coming down the hill fast towards Paris. So I have to factor in driveway time. I don't have a commute time. My office is actually 8 minutes away from my house. I have a longer driveway time than a commute to my office. So I don't know how this is gonna work. And the thing is, all I can say is I've lived out there my entire life. My parents, my grandparents, we've seen it all. I just hope that people will come and talk to the people who've been out there the longest, Because we have lots of suggestions. Doesn't mean, you know, you're gonna be obligated to take them. But I just don't see how it works. The traffic is backed all the way up to my neighbor there at 565. I can't get anywhere half the time. So I see all this proposed work coming down the pipe for Paris Road, Oak Park, Dundas Street. But I don't know how that's all gonna work. Because it doesn't make sense. I think that's about it. I mean, I don't know what else I can say. I mean, what's gonna happen is gonna happen. I just hope that everybody, all parties involved are willing to work with the neighbors here that are impacted, because I can tell you that 90 years ago, nobody thought that this was gonna be happening. We were the country people. And now we're the industrial people. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that wants to speak to or against? Come on up. And your name and your address, please, for the clerk.
Jennifer Walls, I'm at 14 Curtis Avenue South, Paris, Ontario. I just kind of have a question. Paris Road is a nightmare. I can't even tell you how many times I've stopped with the kids in the car and said that we have to get out because 4 vehicles have hit each other and they can't see over that hill, or someone's stalled in the middle of the lane and we have to get out and push it to the side of the road before another accident happens. OPP is fantastic. They love to be on that road. They love to get the speeders. They're fantastic, but it's only one OPP officer trying to get all hundreds and hundreds of people who I know you guys can't get out of your driveways. Sometimes the people that we were helping say, I was turning into this driveway to go help my grandfather. And I'm like, well, now they got a 4-car pileup. So there is a huge problem there. People don't know that people are turning into their driveways and then they hit other people, and then we have ambulance, police, fire, ambulance. We have all of our services, like, you know what I mean? So what is going to be done so that we can have better sight lines on Paris Road? Because that's a huge concern. If anyone can answer it.
Our staff that would have that answer is not in the room, but you've signed your name on the podium and you can follow it. We'll make sure that you get the answer to your question. Anyone else in the room want to speak to or against this application? I'll ask for the second time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? And I'll ask for the third and final time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to? Come on up, sir.
Just one question. I happened to mention it a little bit before. Do you have the drawing in front of you as to where this property line is?
Our package.
As I said, I mentioned it before, but surely this house that is at 571 should have some sort of squatter's rights on a chunk of that property, because according to this line, it cuts the corner of their house off. And as I said before, if they drive in their driveway, they can't even get into their backyard. If they put a fence up, and their backyard, as I said, there must be some sort of squatter's rights that they can declare. I'll tell you a funny little story. I live at 565 Paris Road, and when I bought my place, the lawyer said, well, you can charge your neighbor toll road. What are you talking about? Well, the previous owner owned both properties, and when he severed the property off, this 10 feet that ran across the front of both properties ended up in my deed. So I now own 10 feet across my neighbor's property. Now, I'm not going to object, but he's going to probably have to declare squatter's rights to get it back on his own property. What about this property here?
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Okay.
Just have one question. Just one quick question. So it says M2-XX special assessment. All right, so I'm just reading, I just went on, the county did just find out, but it's just saying M2 zoning, permitted uses would be manufacturing, warehouses and distribution, construction yards, asphalt plants and paving operations. Well, we have Coco Paving, which is on Oak Park, and I had heard, you never know what's correct and what's not, but I had heard that they were looking at doing asphalt plant there possibly, and then service industrial uses. So can we get a clear understanding of exactly what is going to be built there if this goes through? As being direct neighbors, can we not find out exactly what's going there so that we're aware? I think that's only fair.
Through the mayor to the delegation. In Lauren's presentation earlier on, she listed the proposed uses. Now, those are just the proposed uses that are being considered. The final bylaw, when a recommendation comes forward, or if a bylaw is brought forward, will list the permitted uses at that time. But in the presentation, which forms part of the public record tonight, there is that information in it, that M2XX, what they're proposing in addition to the M2.
Yeah, we saw the greenhouse, et cetera, so we saw that. But what I'm asking specifically is, I understand what the proposed is, but is there any way before this is passed that we know exactly what their intent is? I think that's so important for all of us in the neighborhood. We're right beside them. How would you feel if it was your house? So is there any way we can know exactly what they're planning on doing?
Through the mayor to the delegation, no, we do not know exactly what they're proposing on that. It is subject to the M2 zone. Anything could be in there that meets the M2 zoning. Over time, the uses could change also. That's
Right.
what we recognize.
And then
So
you
though
don't
there's
have to bring it back to council.
it doesn't give us an exact use at this time.
Okay. Well, I propose to turn it down.
Is there anyone else in the room that has anything to say about this application to or against? For or against? I'll ask the second time, is there anyone in the room that has anything to add to this application? And I'll ask for the third and final time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, I will declare this part of the meeting closed, and I'll ask for a motion from council to get on the floor. Councillor Coleman, Councillor Pierce. Council, have any questions? Councillor Oakley, you're first.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the applicant. I'm just curious as to the reasoning behind the specifics that are being asked for above and beyond the M2. Specifically, I'm interested in the transport and truck terminal ask, but broadly speaking, I'm curious as to the reasoning behind those specific items to be pulled out and added to this zoning.
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor. Originally, we had applied for M3 zone category, which is a heavy industrial zone category, to allow broader range of uses, as we do not know who the user will be at this time. So it provides the flexibility to market and allow a range of uses to occur on the property. However, in conversations with county staff, it was suggested that we look at more of a M2 zone and add on some of the additional uses that we can consider. So instead of heavy industrial uses, heavy manufacturing, we kind of removed those and included a very small list that could be envisioned in future. So it just provides a little bit more flexibility at this time. Again, we do not know who will be occupying those buildings, and it provides a little bit more range of uses to allow on that property.
Thank you for the answer.
Councillor Pierce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Rosika. Now, when you were going through your presentation, you noted that I believe you said this is a very high-level plan. It's going to come back with some changes. the changes that, as far as I'm concerned, are a must, is on page 73 of our report when it comes to the application details, and it shows the zone provisions of the M2, and then it's got the building A, building B. You got everything documented there except the last two, which is lot coverage and building height maximum, listed as TBD. I'm most concerned about the building height as a TBD, because we all understand what happened on the corner of Oak Park. And number two, that building there is much higher than what we approved as council, because it went to committee of adjustment. And I want to make sure that you've got something on that spot when this comes back. I don't want it to be a TBD, because I cannot support that at all unless there is something there.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the comments. We will make sure. We are not requesting any variances at this time, so we will ensure that it meets all the provisions and setback requirements along with the height and lot coverage of the M2 zone category.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To staff, the XX, as was raised by one of the delegates, it looks like it's a compound of M2, bits of M3, bits of COM, bits of institutional. It's a real bugger's muddle. I'm sorry to use my English French here, but it really is a mess. I mean, why do we find ourselves in this situation? I mean, why do we have zoning bylaws which spell out what we can and cannot do, and then we go to the extreme of having a composite of zoning, which is from 4 different zoning bylaws sections? I think this is it really does irritate me, and I think it does undermine the confidence we can have in our zoning bylaw. And I've said this before, I will say it again. I think we're really running into difficult times here. I have a second question, which is around the lands that are to be rezoned. On page 71, which shows the official plan, there's a huge chunk of natural heritage. On page 72, that seems to have been forgotten. You're trying to rezone the whole of that land, including all the natural heritage land. If we go back to the conversation we had with Washington Street, typically we add a buffer to the natural heritage area, and this is completely gone in here. Can somebody explain why?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bell, the drawing you see with the reduced area was submitted by the applicant as a proposal. What you're seeing in the official plan is the designated land area. So that is still under review. So we have our peer reviewer looking at the environmental study that was done and determining what the appropriate boundaries are supposed to be and what works need to be done before we come back for recommendation. So those are there just for information purposes, but there is additional work that will need to be done to determine the final boundaries before we bring it back to council.
Saying page 71, that drawing is approximate.
I would say at the moment, the staff's direction is still in the OP with the larger buffer at the larger boundary area. So yes, what you see in the proposed zoning is much less than we would say is in the OP.
Okay, I'll wait to see the final product.
Okay, Councillor Miller?
Yeah, this site, it's not serviced with water or wastewater?
Through the chair, it's not currently serviced. I have received comments from operations, and it is intended to be serviced in the future.
Do we know when?
I believe water servicing is available. However, through the future reconstruction project, then they would have the sanitary servicing.
Okay, and through Rashika, at this point, Rashika, they're building it, but they don't have a tenant at this point? And they're aware of this?
Through the mayor, that is correct.
Okay. I wanted to ask our staff, Mr. Mayor, lighting, because that was one of the concerns raised. and I bring it up most of these industrial applications, or employment applications, but when they do the lighting, I know we talked about lighting and bylaws and they can't shine directly into the neighboring property, but is there any requirement yet, or do we have any requirement to make it night-friendly lighting?
Through the mayor to Councilor Miller, I don't think the wording is night sky friendly yet, but it is when they submit photometric plans at site plan. We'll be looking at there's no light projecting past the property limits, or very minimal, like your foot candles is almost nothing. So it's not just pointing, it's actually that the light stays on the property itself and doesn't go outward in any form or fashion, is all downward.
Okay, so that's part of the photometric study then?
Yes, that's part of the photometric plans that are required.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, council? It's on the floor, it has a seconder. It's just for information again. Call the vote, all those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Which takes us to number 10 on the agenda, which is 399 Pleasant Ridge Road. Yes.
Good evening. This presentation is for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2325 AV for the property municipality known as 399 Pleasant Ridge Road, submitted by English Group on behalf of the owners. This application is related to a surplus farm dwelling severance that was approved in 2025. The property is currently zoned as agriculture, resource extraction with a special exception or EX2, and natural heritage. As a condition of the surplus farm dwelling severance, the retained lands are required to be rezoned to prohibit a dwelling unit. This application proposes to rezone the retained lands from agriculture and from resource extraction with a special exception to agricultural with a special exception or A9. Staff are recommending approval of this zoning bylaw amendment for the following reasons. It prohibits future residential development on the retained agricultural lands, helping to protect the long-term agricultural land base. A portion of the property is currently zoned resource extraction, which was originally applied in association with a potential gravel extraction use that was never undertaken. There is no active mineral aggregate operation on the property, and rezoning the lands to A9 will not preclude a licensed operation or undermine the long-term protection of mineral aggregate resources under the 2024 provincial planning statement. No concerns were identified through circulation and no public comments were received. And lastly, the proposal is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms to the County of Brant Official Plan 2023, and complies with the zoning bylaw. So given the minor nature of the application, staff have kept the presentation brief and would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, before we move forward, this is another public hearing, and it is open now to the public. Rashika, did you have anything to add? No? Okay, so is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Noting that tonight is for approval. I'll ask for the second time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? And I'll ask for the third and final time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, I'll declare this part of the meeting closed. I need someone to put it on the floor for us. Councillor Coleman, Councillor Howes. Council, do you have any concerns, questions, comments? 399 Pleasant Ridge Road. No, no comments, no concerns. Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Thank you. takes us to number 10-2, which is 169 to 197 Pottruff Road. And Logan is the planner, and then Brooks here for the owner.
Good evening, Mayor Bailey and Council. I'll be presenting for recommendation zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 2125 LK for lands located at 169 and 197 Pottruff Road on behalf of Brooke Burlock of Zelenka Priamo and the owner 214 Carson Co., courtesy of Steve Little. The property is located on the east side of Pottruff Road, north of Bethel Road, and east of Shawcross Street. In the settlement area of Paris. Subject lands are approximately 7.8 hectares with frontage of approximately 504 meters along Pottruff Road. Surrounding area consists of industrial, aggregate, agricultural, and low-density residential land uses. Subject lands are currently designated as Prestige Employment and Natural Heritage System within the official plan 2023 and zoned as agricultural and natural heritage in our zoning bylaw. So the initial proposal when we were here back in December was to rezone the lands to heavy industrial M3 with site specifics in order to facilitate the development of 3 buildings with manufacturing, warehousing, and other industrial uses. The site specifics for the initial proposal were an increased maximum driveway width and a parking ratio reduction of 1 space per 20 square meters for the office use, whereas 1 per 15 square meters is required, and 1 space per 125 square meters, whereas, for the warehousing facility, whereas 1 per 100 square meters is required. Following the information meeting and discussions with the application now proposes to rezone the northern portion of the subject lands from agricultural to light industrial M2 with site specifics, as you see on your screen. The additional permitted uses within the M3, from the M3 zone to be included in this zone include chemical and pharmaceutical industry, food processing plant, processed goods industry, and paper products industry, all of which are consistent with the official plan designation. The development standard site specifics have changed ever so slightly, or we've added one. A maximum building height of 16.5 meters, whereas 12 meters is permitted. A maximum driveway width of 11 meters, whereas 10 meters is permitted. And a parking ratio reduction of 1 space per 20 square meters for the office space, whereas 1 per 15 square meters is required, and 1 space per 125 square meters for the warehousing facility, whereas 1 per 100 square meters is required. So no major changes, but we've added the increase in height. Some of the key considerations, so sections 2.5 and 4.22.2 of the zoning bylaw speak to properties that have 2 or more zone classifications, whereby the zone with the more restrictive requirements shall apply. Because the subject lands will have 2 zone classifications, should this application be approved, we would like to ensure that the new zone can function independently from the agricultural zone requirements of the property. To ensure that the proposed M2 zone boundaries act as such, we've added a clause in the bylaw. After revising the zone boundaries, it is necessary to also recognize the remaining agricultural land's reduced lot area. The southern portion of the property will result in a minimum lot area of 3.7 hectares. The subject lands are to be rezoned in a phased approach, and the remaining agricultural lands will need to be reassessed as part of the next application in order to conform with the official plan. In doing so, a site-specific zoning has been placed on the southern portion of the property as outlined in the bylaw as well. It is of the opinion of planning staff that the revisions are minor, administrative, and technical in nature to allow for clear interpretation of the phasing of the development of the subject lands. The site is currently not serviced despite being in the settlement area of Paris. The lands were brought into the settlement area during the 2023 official plan consolidation. However, despite being brought into the settlement area, the lands were never considered in the Paris Master Servicing Plan, as that plan was completed in 2020. An update to that Paris Master Servicing Plan is required. and it is the intention of the owner to be connected to municipal services, and county staff have worked with the proponent to find a solution that works for all parties' timelines. At this time, staff are confident that these discussions are progressing well, and a more detailed review will take place during the site plan control process. An environmental impact study was prepared by Sumac Environmental Consulting and submitted as part of this application. The EIS underwent an independent peer review by LGL Limited, who provided detailed comments as part of their assessment. Staff noted that further information is required in order to consider the EIS acceptable at this time, and as it relates to the significant woodland that traverses through the southern portion of the property. As a result, the applicant revised the proposed M2 zone boundary to avoid any significant environmental feature on the property, leaving the northern portion of the subject lands to be rezoned separately from the southern portion of the site. The current state of the EIS has been utilized to delineate the natural heritage feature and establish a 30-meter buffer consistent with the official plan being established from the woodland in question, and as such will not be impacted as part of the proposed rezoning. In doing so, no environmental concerns are present on the lands to be rezoned. Notice of the application was provided to all landowners within 125 meters of the subject lands. At this time of the presentation, we have received public comments regarding the rezoning application and have since connected with these members of the public to try and address their concerns. These concerns are in regard to the environmental aspects of the proposal, and as mentioned, further examination of such features would be required with any future application, either through a site plan control application or a zoning application. As a result of my review of the application, I'm recommending zoning bylaw application ZBA 2125OK be approved for the reasons outlined in my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Brooke, you're going to come up. Do you have a presentation? You do, okay. Maybe just your name and who you represent, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Brooke Burlock. I'm a planner with Solinka Preamo Limited. We have been retained on behalf of 214 Carson Co. Inc. for this zoning bylaw amendment application for lands known municipally as 169 and 197 Pottruff Road. So thank you to staff for processing this ZBA application and providing a thorough overview of the proposed development and now the revised zoning bylaw amendment application that's before council tonight. We have reviewed the staff's report and support staff's recommendation for approving this zoning bylaw amendment application. So in addition to the original zoning bylaw submission materials provided to council in December, we have submitted an addendum PJR in response to comment document that was circulated to council prior to this meeting that provides some additional information and address the comments provided at the previous council meeting. So my presentation will be fairly brief. I'll provide some additional information related to the revised zoning bylaw amendment application and the proposed development. I'd also like to note that I'm joined by 214 Carson Co. In the audience, and also Six Nations, which is the future landowner of the northern portion of the subject lands. So we'll all be available to answer any questions or comments from council.
Thank you. And because this is a public meeting, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I've seen it so many times that.
I'll make it quick then. So the subject lands are located at the northeast intersection of Bethel Road and Pottruff Road. So the current subject lands is comprised as two separate parcels. So 169 Pottruff Road is shown in green and 197 Pottruff Road is shown in yellow. We note that there is an ongoing consent to sever application, which proposes to sever the northerly portion of the 169 Pottruff parcel. Once the consent is approved and registered on title, the 197 parcel and the severed parcel will merge on title, which is the intended property that Six Nations is purchasing, and Andritz will be the tenant. So the initial zoning bylaw amendment application was presented to council in December for information purposes. The initial ZBA proposed to rezone the majority of the property to from agricultural to heavy industrial, subject to site-specific provisions. There was also modifications to the natural heritage zone boundary, including a new buffer zone that was based on the findings of the EIS. So based on the comments received from council, the public, and staff, the ZB application has been rescoped, and so has the development. So it's going to proceed through a phased approach. So in order to address comments related to land use compatibility, the proposed ZBA has been modified to rezone the northerly portion of the lands from agricultural to light industrial, subject to site-specific provisions. As Logan noted, the boundary of the existing agricultural zoning on the southern portion of the land is going to remain the same, but there is a site-specific provision that's technical in nature just to address the minimum lot area. And then the existing natural heritage zone is also going to remain as existing, given that there are additional site surveys and environmental work that is required to address the county's comments and finalize the extent of the natural heritage found on the site. There was a 30-meter buffer from the proposed development and the proposed ZBA from the staked woodlot feature. So this phased approach to zoning approvals will allow orderly development to proceed while ensuring sufficient time and analysis is completed with respect to the existing woodlot found on the southern portion of the property. So as such, comments related to the EIS and slopability study from the County of Brant's peer reviewer and the GRCA will be addressed through subsequent planning approvals. So as mentioned, the proposed development has been rescoped. So it was originally 3 industrial buildings and now it's 2 industrial buildings. There's approximate total of 15,796 square meters of GFA, and the slide here just demonstrates, the high-level site stats for the proposed development. So this slide demonstrates kind of a zoomed out of the entire property. So you can really see that the area shaded in blue is the rescoped zoning bylaw amendment application and the proposed development. So it's completely outside of the existing natural heritage features that will be dealt with in future planning approvals. And so here's a zoomed up of the site plan. So building A, which is on the left side, is the property that Six Nations will be purchasing. The tenant is Andritz, so it'll be manufacturing hydroelectric materials. And so the tenant is known at this point. Last time when we met with council, it was unknown. So it will be manufacturing in processed goods facility. And then building B is still a speculative build, so that the tenants are not known at this point. So it would be any uses proposed be permitted within the M2XX zone. And it's a site plan that's very similar to council's seen before. So all the loading has been placed at the rear of the site. It's been internalized, so there's limited noise, visual impacts onto the street. There'll be robust landscaping on all yards, and all these kind of site details will be provided and ironed out within the site plan application. So a breakdown of the revised zoning bylaw amendment application. So we are proposing a reduced parking rate based on the findings of the parking study that was supplied in the initial zoning application. Similarly, the proposed driveway width of a maximum of 11 meters is proposed, and this is to ensure that there are safe vehicle maneuvers in and out of the property. As Logan noted, there is now a site-specific provision related to the increased height of maximum of 16.5 meters. And this is really to accommodate modern manufacturing operational needs, large materials that need to be, located and moved around within the actual interior of the building. So that's why that increase of building height is needed. The elevations weren't finalized at the time that we presented to the county council, but the renderings were. So the renderings that the county council saw at the last meeting are consistent with the proposed maximum building height of 16.5 meters. And the next would be additional specific compatible uses that are only permitted within the M3 zone, which I can provide some more additional information on the next slide. And then lastly, technical provision related to the applicability of multiple zones on one property. So here demonstrates the M3 uses that will be permitted within the M2XX zone and the M3 uses that were originally proposed in our initial ZBA application that are not being proposed. So the way the County of Brant zoning bylaw breaks down all these specific uses shown in the left column, it really breaks down specific manufacturing uses. So the chemical and pharmaceutical industry, food processing plant, paper products industry, and processed goods industry is essentially a manufacturing use. And all these uses are generally going to be interior to the building. They're not, the operations are not outside of the building, which is kind of where the more concerns of noise and odor would be found. So these are all consistent with the manufacturing uses that are permitted in the official plan. And then we also note that all these uses that we are proposing to be added into the M2XX zone require a lot of regulatory, requirements from provincial agencies to ensure that they're functioning safely. So overall, the additional uses are consistent with the County of Brant's official plan. And then lastly, so a technical amendment to the agricultural zoning is proposed. So again, the lot, the area and the boundary of the agricultural zoning is not being changed. It's just really a technical provision to make sure that it complies with the zoning bylaw. And that concludes my presentation. So overall, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application and proposed development is consistent with the County of Brant's official plan and represents good land use planning. I'll be available to answer any questions, and so will 214 Carson and Six Nations. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak to or against this application? For the second time, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, we'll call it for the third time. Is there anyone in the room that wants to speak to or against this application? Seeing none, we'll call this part of the meeting closed. I'm looking for a motion from council to move it forward. Councillor Oakley and Councillor Howes. Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question. Servicing, it's not available. Sounds like they are expecting it because I didn't see a septic bed on your diagram. So am I to assume then that Andrews would not move in until services are available? Is that fair statement?
So through the mayor to the council, so we're working with, to designing a service design through the site plan application. And so that's been submitted to the county earlier this week. So once the design has been finalized and depending on the timing of municipal infrastructure, a possible cost sharing agreement would be pursued. But no, servicing has to be in place prior to site plan approval. So that would be site plan approvals required for building permits and an occupancy.
A lot of balls in the air then for those guys. Okay, thank you.
Is there any, Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we had the information session, I think the folks from...
Sorry, your time's up.
I can't finish up. Yeah, we had the folks from Five Oaks. I think Five Oaks? Is that the right? Yeah. They were concerned about their proximity and particularly around the environmental issues associated with some of the potential uses of that site. I noticed you've taken 4 out of 8 possible elements of M3. It's almost an M2.5, this one, if you look at it carefully. But the pieces you've taken, chemical and pharmaceutical, food processing, paper products, and processed goods, they're probably the ones that would potentially be the ones that could result in environmental issues. You did say these would be contained internally. Could you just say more about that? Because if that was the case, I could feel more comfortable about you having these 4 extra elements.
Through the mayor to you, councillor. So essentially, the way we look at these proposed uses is that they are essentially manufacturing uses, and oftentimes when these uses are developed, a lot of the operational, the operations of those uses are interior to the building. Now, I can't say that, all future tenants would be, completely interior to the building, but in a general sense, those uses are interior to the building. In referencing Five Oaks, we have discussed with Five Oaks the comments, and 214 has met with them multiple times to discuss stormwater management and runoff into not only the 169 adjacent neighbor, but then also to Five Oaks. And so 214 has addressed all of Five Oaks' concerns. And then we also noted that the concerns related to specifically to the environmental features would be addressed in future planning applications.
Okay, as a general point, I noticed that the properties around you are zoned M2-34 or M1. And M2-34, the only additional change they've got from the full M2 zoning is a parking ratio change. I think it would be more appropriate, in my view, from the sake of consistency, to take that M234 zoning, and then there will be very limited opportunities for the concerns that Five Oaks have to come about. I can understand why you want to have the maximum flexibility, but I think in many respects the precedent is set around you that Five Oaks has felt comfortable with, and I would ask you to think about coming back simply to the M2-34 that is surrounding you.
So through the mayor to you, councillor. So when coming up with the specific uses that are permitted on the property, it is important to look at the permitted uses to adjacent and surrounding properties, but simply relying on just those uses that are permitted within those zones doesn't necessarily, take into consideration all appropriate uses that would be permitted on the property of this zoning bylaw amendment. So only relying on that M234 zone would essentially sterilize the subject lands in terms of the amount of uses that would be permitted. Only doing specific uses that would be permitted within the M234 zone is not necessarily what's consistent with the official plan and the PPS. And so our understanding and my professional planning opinion is that these additional industrial uses in the M2XX zone would be appropriate and are consistent with the official plan and PPS.
I will make the comment that there are something like 32 uses within the M2 zone, so it's not exactly limiting.
Questions, council? Anybody have anything else they want to add? Councillor Kyle?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Question to the presenter. So you've identified that Andritz is the tenant that will be going into the one building. So just speaking to Councillor Bell's question, if it was just the M2-34, would that allow Andritz to be there, or do they need that processed goods zone?
Through the mayor to the councillor, I don't know the specific uses that are permitted in the M234 zone, so I can't speak to that. But I think only limiting the uses for this one specific tenant right now really limits the opportunity for the site itself to grow and to change tenants in the future. Andritz is the intended tenant for the foreseeable future. However, rezoning it to only permit that tenant right now really limits the appropriate uses that are permitted on the subject lands. So from our professional opinion, or from my professional opinion, again, these additional uses are appropriate for the subject lands and would be consistent with policy.
Councillor Kyle?
Yeah, follow up if I can, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for that answer. That's, I just wanted to ensure that if there was some movement around the table to change what you're requesting, whether it would limit Andritz was kind of my specific question to that. And then further to that, I know when you were here the last time, there was some discussion around the Six Nations partners. I'm wondering if you could remind us what that is, because if I remember correctly, it was kind of a good news story for part of this proposal as well.
Through the mayor to council, yeah. So I'll just let Brooke Hayward from 214 speak to those matters.
Through the mayor to address Councillor Kyle's questions, thank you. There's two parts to that, so we'll address both. The back of the room today is our friends at Six Nations of the Grand River Development Corporation, and they are in fact a 50% owner in this project. So they will be purchasing the land. They are partnering with Andritz, and this is a great news story for the area. Sustainable development. Part of making sure the zoning complies is the processing goods. We wanted to make sure that they can function. We've done consultation with our friends at Andritz and Six Nations to make sure the zoning wasn't limiting their ability to do what they need to do there, and it was a bit of a precautionary measure in order to do that. That's why we've done extensive consultation with all the neighbors. Five Oaks, we've met with them on 3 or 4 occasions, and in fact, part of their concern was they didn't want to lose some of their aesthetic flows if we drain to the front. They wanted the natural heritage to continue to drain. So we've made changes to how this site will function in order to accommodate our friends at Five Oaks. and as well the neighbors on the corner as well. So there has been extensive consultation in order to allow this good news story to occur here in the county of Brant. And then part two of your question, I may have answered both actually in that. I did? Okay, great.
Thanks, Brooke. Does council have any other questions or concerns? Noted, Councillor Oakley.
Through Mr. Mayor, just a comment in regards to this conversation around the additional uses asked for from the M2 here. Given that we have identified it as prestige employment, looking for higher order employment uses, I would personally concur with with the logic that the applicant is using to justify these particular additions to the M2 zone to facilitate a higher order employment use, which facilitates the growth of Paris. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything about the application? Noting that it's for approval tonight. Councillor Miller?
Just a question about M2, M3, the uses, general question, not specific to this application. How often do we upgrade those uses? Because uses change all the time. Now we have AI data centers, and I don't think that's in any of our uses, but you know what I mean? Like, things change over time. How often do we tweak those?
Through the mayor to council, generally we'll do zoning bylaw updates on a regular basis, usually yearly, to do some minor tweaks and updates. Right now, as you are aware, and Brandon's going to be presenting shortly, is the community planning permit system do a major update to be brought into conformity with our OP. So there will be seeing that that's a big change, for example. But generally speaking, we will do some minor updates here and there, and that's yearly or at least every few years you'll do a review.
Okay, so it's through the zoning bylaw updates?
Yeah, through the zoning, general bylaw updates. We'll do general bylaw updates. Like, that's when you saw like VHS rental places disappear and new things come in their place, for example.
The horse and buggy manufacturer. Okay, yeah.
Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment, if I could, and I spoke earlier tonight about having these public meetings and having the, receive for information before it's approved. And here's a classic example of how the system works. The first rendition that was shown to us is much different than what it is today. So I just wanted to point out that, thank you, as you have on your screen there. Oh, it just went blank on me, but there was a thank you for listening to what we were saying as a county and what people were saying and come back with this. So that this just proves that the system does work, and here's a prime example right here.
Yeah. Any other comments or concerns? Councillor Kyle?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. It just kind of tag on to Councillor Pierce's comment. He's exactly right, and I think the other thing that is that kind of goes along with that is the effort that the applicant put into addressing the concerns, but also found solutions to still accomplish what they were trying to accomplish, particularly with the Andritz building and the partnership with Six Nations of the Grand. So, yeah, for those reasons and the reasons outlined in the report, I'm supportive of the application tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments before we call the vote? Call the vote. All those in favor to approve? Opposed? And done. Thank you. Takes us to number 11 on the agenda, which is a committee report. Councillor Kyle, you have that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Coleman that the Agricultural Advisory Committee report and minutes of February the 10th, 2026 be approved, including the following recommendations. 1, that nominations for the position of chair be closed and that member Sharp be declared chair of the Agricultural Advisory Committee. 2, that nominations for the position of vice chair be closed and that member Ross Miller be declared the vice chair of the Agricultural Advisory Committee. And 3, that Kent Potruff, Community Emergency Management Coordinator, be requested to come forward to the Agricultural Advisory Committee with an emergency preparedness presentation.
Thanks, Councillor Kyle. Does anyone have any questions to the Agricultural Advisory Committee report? Seeing none, call a vote. All those in favor of receiving it? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to number 12 on the agenda, which is a staff report. It's Brandon's coming up to talk about the community planning permit system.
All right, good evening, everyone. I won't belabor this too long. I recognize it's getting late. But as we've kind of talked about this evening, the community planning permit system is kind of an important step in what we're doing to improve our approach to development approvals, that process overall. And so what this report did, and just for the benefit of the public, is it kind of walks us through a draft of the process that we're looking at, this updated process for development approvals through this framework. So just a reminder, we're presenting this just as information for only. We wanted to just kind of break this down and get feedback from you on it. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have. We'll just kind of give a quick high-level summary of this process and what it's proposing to change. So as we know with the CPPS, it replaces multiple applications, one coordinated permit that way. We've done an assessment to the impact on our planning division that it could have, and while there's going to be fewer files overall, we have noted that they will be more comprehensive. So the idea is you're kind of putting everything into one review process rather than doing the separate stuff. So that gives our planning staff the opportunity to look at the quality of the applications more so than the administrative steps that they need to go through to get to council meetings. Two core principles that we're presenting with this process that are kind of the basis for it. We're looking at the opportunities for kind of front loading, the discussions and the feasibility discussion specifically. So that amounts to early studies, early agency input, early public input. We heard some great public input this evening, and we'd really like this to build on that, give the opportunity for the public to be included earlier in the process, reducing the surprises and setting the expectations before an application can even be submitted. We're also looking at predictability. So we've talked about the 45-day kind of time frame. The report kind of goes over exactly when that would happen. We would set up pre-consultation as a mandatory thing. So if they don't have a conversation with the municipality, they don't get to put an application in. That conversation can be scaled a little bit depending on the complexities of the application. But then one of the other things that we're looking at doing is dividing our studies, and there's a load of them listed in our official plan, but dividing those into kind of two categories. So one would be the feasibility stuff. That's the stuff we need to know up front. That's kind of sets the bumpers for the development. And then the other stuff is more design related. And that stuff we can secure through conditions with the applications. And we do have the opportunity to do conditions now through minor variances. We have it through subdivision control, but conditions can be applied through this community planning permit system to any of these kind of land use files. So that will be a helpful way to kind of secure some stuff for the county's benefit. So overall outcomes, transparency, predictability, defensibility of the decisions that are being made, meeting our legislated timelines, avoiding non-decisions and appeals. Some of the main things that we've talked about over the last several years. So I just wanted to note as well, we've gone through some engagement, open houses. There's going to be a summary coming to council next month on that already. And the feedback from those folks and from yourselves from our earlier education sessions are being incorporated into a draft bylaw. And we hope to have that draft bylaw released by the end of this month. So we are working quickly on the project, but again, important steps. We're trying to break them down for the benefit of everyone's kind of comprehension of it. It's a new process for everyone, and we hopefully this helps. But if you have any questions on it, happy to answer those this evening.
Questions for Brandon on his report? Councillor Miller?
Just on the 5 steps you have. So if I'm building a 150 housing unit subdivision, I go through that process, correct?
Correct.
And if I'm building a shop out back that's a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be, I go through that process, correct?
Correct.
But that's the only thing they got in common because it's going to be vastly different the way they're treated?
Yes, so the idea is that these are kind of foundational steps, but the way we're setting it up is that it will be scalable to the complexity of the application. So someone coming in with their shed versus their 150 units, they won't be treated the same at that level, but they will go through the same process.
That's what you meant by scalable, okay.
Yeah. So someone, just as an example, so to kind of better understand that, the pre-application discussion could simply just be an email with a list. Here's the 2 studies you need to provide. That's for the shed. Someone doing 150 units, there'll be more requirements for them to go through, and they would be likely have to sit down and meet with staff to discuss it.
Councillor Chambers.
When we institute this on day one, we would pass a bylaw, and when the bylaw is passed, then this system would be in place.
That is correct.
When the date that the bylaw is passed, applications in progress will conclude with the old process.
So through the mayor, we have the opportunity to include transition clauses in the bylaw to specifically treat those applications as needed. So our direction right now is that there will be a transition with older applications. They can go through that older process still, not to confuse things. If they do want to step into the new process, there will be that opportunity, and we can help transition them.
So an applicant there will be a time period when an applicant may have a choice on which process to go through in anticipation of the bylaw being passed.
That is correct. That's our goal right now. With that, of course, the bylaw needs to be seen, but yeah, that is our goal right now, is that there will be that opportunity to step into the new process if they do desire that.
There may be a report necessary to explain the transition when that happens, because there's going to be some confusion of applicants, and we are maybe going to have to explain that. So there will be some more information on how this is going to transition.
Absolutely.
And when do you expect time frame for that bylaw to be in front of us and the transition in place? Are we looking at the summertime?
Yeah, through the mayor, we're anticipating the bylaw to come forward in June, the final bylaw. That gives us an extra month just in case there's more discussions or we need to come back with some changes. We'll be bringing a draft, presenting a draft kind of to the public within the next month, but then that finalized version would come to council in June. That's our anticipated timeline right now.
I suppose the sooner it would be, the better, because the closer you get to the election may complicate things as well.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Brandon. Brandon, I attended one of your public meetings. I think what I took away from that was it wasn't very well attended by the people in the community. And I'm sorry for that, because you put in a ton of work and good stuff. But it kind of highlights the problem that I think we may have to just live through. This is we better launch it and then we'll find out. People will have to get used to it. I don't think we're in the mode where we can rely on people's input, because most people that will be affected by this didn't even come. And they will find out that we've got a different system when they make an application. And I think that's just the reality of it. It is a good system that you're proposing. And I don't think we should hang on too long before we introduce it. And I'm encouraged by your estimate that 88% of the applications will be dealt with entirely by staff. I think that's great. The reality of it is, though, it's the 12% that come here that we kind of trip up on. And I'm still lacking confidence that we will not get ourselves into situations where we find ourselves making non-decisions. Just because of the scale and the complexity of some of the bigger projects. Now, in many respects, from Paris, the ship has sailed. Most of the things that we have to come to consider in Paris have gone, but St. George is coming. The rest of the county is going to get bigger issues to deal with. So I think I encourage you to move on quickly with this. I will wait to see how it impacts the bigger projects and whether we will get ourselves out of the holes that we've dug ourselves into before. Just take the application out in Scotland, the one there that's been running now for multiple years. We're still trying to get to the point where we can actually decide effectively as a council whether we support the application or not. And that's frustrated the applicant, who has many times got close to the point of saying, I'm going to take you to OLT and force the decision. I'm hopeful, but I have my concerns that this is too complicated for the average person, and it will run foul of the bigger companies who will try to work around it.
Councillor Miller.
It's, just help me with this one then, if we could just walk through it quickly, because it's very pertinent to tonight's discussion. Because it's not just big applications. If we look at the one on Washington Street in Paris, that seems simple. I think that's already designated residential, is it not?
It is.
And they just wanted a little variance. I don't want to use the word minor variance, but a little variance. And walk me through that. We probably wouldn't see that unless we, as a, I'm not sure what the mechanism is, but, because we did talk about maybe a counselor bringing up something controversial, or did we, I don't know if we decided, or we'll talk about it with the majority vote. I don't know how we do that, but would something like that be in front of us or not?
So through the mayor, that particular application, for two reasons, it would come in front of council. So one, they are amending the official plan. So an amendment to the official plan would be something that comes to council.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, let's pretend they weren't.
Okay, yep.
I ain't pretend tonight.
Yeah, fair enough. So if it was indeed just, say, a zoning bylaw amendment, and it was within the variation limit, so say it was only 5% of a change that they needed, then it would not come forward for that land use purpose. It would, however, this is the second piece, come forward for the land division piece. So the plans of subdivision are still in approval under council. And there can be, just so you know, there can be conversation about those approvals as well in the future, but we're just suggesting we start with this land use piece and the variations through the CPPS, and we can look at kind of that greater scope in the future.
Any other questions for Brandon? Seeing none, looking for a motion to receive his report, committee report. Councillor Pierce and Councillor House. Any other questions? All those in favor to receive the report? Thank you. Takes us to number 13 on the agenda, which is the communications. We don't have any. Resolutions, we don't have any. Other business, somebody had something. Councillor Pierce.
I did, Mr. Mayor, and it was just hot off the press today, so if I could, I don't know how many others in here received the email from AORS. It's the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors. And it's fitting, and I'd like, if I could, it's very small here, and I'd like to read it and then make a statement afterwards. It says, "Thank you to Ontario Municipal Winter Maintenance Crews. As we start to see the light at the end of the tunnel of another winter season, AORS would like to extend our sincere thanks to the municipal winter maintenance crews across Ontario who have worked tirelessly to keep our roads safe and communities moving. This winter has been a very challenging one, causing long hours, overnight shifts with salt shortages, back-to-back storms, and even challenges that have required incredible dedication from the professionals responsible for clearing snow, spreading salt, and maintaining the roads that we all rely on every day. It's important for the public to remember that these workers are not strangers behind the wheels of these plows. They're your neighbors, your friends, your family members, volunteer fire members, local sports coaches, and active members in your community. They rely on the same roads, bridges, and infrastructure that they do the work hard to maintain. The work of municipal winter maintenance crews can often feel thankless, but AORS would like to see that we see the commitment, the overtime, and the energy that goes into keeping Ontario moving through the toughest conditions. Your dedication does not go unnoticed. I would just like to extend, I know I've said it before, but extend a thanks to our roads crews, because it is a definite difference when you enter the county of Brant as opposed to other municipalities around us, how our roads are cleared and how they're maintained. And I thought it was very fitting with the beautiful sunshine we've had the last few days to get this about our winter ending. Maybe it is the light at the end of the tunnel, who knows? But I think it's a very important email, and you know, I would again like to extend our thanks to our crews. I don't know if any of them are listening right now, but I'd like it noted that I think I can speak on behalf of everybody in this council and staff that thank you very much for an amazing job they did this winter. It's a winter that we haven't experienced in a long time. I think we can all agree on that. And as the article says, you know, back-to-back snowstorms. And, you know, not only did they keep the roads clear, but we as councillors also got updates as to how they're doing, how things are going, and how they're progressing, and it was just fabulous. So anyway, I saw that, I got that email today, and I just wanted to pass it on. My thanks.
That's great. Thank you for that, Councillor Pierce. Anybody else have anything? Councillor Chambers?
And just that, just jogged something in my mind. The Ontario Good Roads Convention is coming up at the end of the month, and there used to be, I think they still have an awards dinner for long service and education. I'm just wondering, do we have anyone from the county receiving awards, either long service or education?
Allison, do you know that?
Through your worship to Councillor Chambers, not that I'm aware of. I know that there was an award received last year, but I can absolutely double check and I'll have a memo sent to council.
I'm just wondering about our former general manager of Public Works.
Any other comments, concerns? We'll take it then. We're not going in camera for any reason, which takes us to number 17, which is the bylaws, and Councillor Bell has those.
Yep. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Pierce that bylaws 3026 to 3326 be read a first time.
All those in favor of the first reading? If you could do it again, please, Councillor Bell.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pierce, that bylaws 3026 to 3326 be read a second time and all preambles and clauses be adopted.
Are there any questions to the second reading of the bylaws? Seeing none, we'll call the vote on the second reading. All those in favor? And if you could do it one more time, Councillor Bell.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Pierce that bylaws 3026 to 3326 be read a third time, passed, signed and executed.
All those in favor of the third reading of the bylaws? Which takes us to the end of the evening, which is number 18, next meeting and adjournment, Tuesday, March the 24th, 2026, which I think we have our new councillor by then, don't we? Won't somebody be sitting in that chair?
Through your worship to council, so there'll be an appointment, but they will not be sworn in until the 24th.
Okay, great. But we will. Anything else for the betterment of the county of Brant? Seeing none, looking for a motion